Tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
All right, welcome to Tinfoil Hat, live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. Go to samtripoli.gold, use the promo code Tinfoil, and you too can get in on the Precious Metals game for as little as $50 a month. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. Very excited to have one of the OGs of this whole thing on. He's a real journalist. He's an independent journalist. He's, bringing a bunch of tribes together to put out the information for the masses, for those who want it. He has the Conscious Resistance Network. As always, it's an honor to have him on. I think he's been on a couple times. Glad to have him back. Please welcome to Tinfoil Hat, Derrick Broze. How are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. It's been a while. Glad to be back.
It's been a while. Very excited to have you on. Derrick, for those who may not be familiar with you and your last appearances and the work you're doing, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, absolutely, brother. So as you said, I'm an independent journalist. I think that kind of covers most of what I do. I wear a few different hats, but normally you'll find me writing articles, producing videos, documentaries, podcasts, interviews, etc. I've written a few books. My main website is theconsciousresistance.com. That's where all of the above is at. I'm also a weekly writer over at The Last American Vagabond with Ryan Christian and Whitney Webb and some other folks there. And I've been doing this work for 15 years now. I started in late 2009, 2010, woke up after going to prison at an early age. And that kind of was my wake up call in a lot of ways. And then from there got out and started waking up more politically. I say the first wake up was more like a spiritual wake up, if you will, got into meditation and things like that when I was locked up. And that, that kind of helped me once I got sober, come out into the world as a felon and start questioning the world in other ways. And now I've been on that journey, just doing independent media. I produce documentaries. I've written a few books, most recently, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. And overall, just trying to, be a example of a free human who's trying to expose corruption and focus on whatever solutions we might have available to us.
I love it, dude. I love it. Do you think you can fully get out of the technocratic state?
I don't know I'll say this. I mean, I wrote the book, which people can download for free at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to. There's a free audiobook, free PDF. It's in multiple languages. Pick it up there. I wrote it originally in 2019, going into 2020. So 6 months before I actually published it in January 2020. And it has nothing to do with, viruses and pandemics or anything like that. It was more just my work as a journalist has largely focused on digital surveillance and, facial recognition and these sort of tools. And, long story short, that goes back to my activism days in 2013, 2014, back in Houston. I was leaked some pictures from a Houston Police Department officer who was inside of a training session that they were hosting about me. And he told me that he passed through another journalist on information that I was under surveillance. And he actually took pictures from within the classroom and I could see myself up on like a little projector and things like that. And so when I found that out, I was like, okay. And at that point, I'd only done like local activism, confronting cops, questioning the mayor, stuff like that. But he told me I was under surveillance and I started to really dive into what does that even mean? This is also around the time Snowden's coming out with his documents. So really just dove in, and that has become, if there was one topic I've consistently wrote about over the last 15 years, it would be digital surveillance, now more specifically technocracy. But yeah, it's been something I've been focusing on. So when I started writing the book in 2019, it was with this awareness of how rapidly facial recognition was moving at the time. And here we are 6 years later, and it's even further. As we're recording this today, the Real ID is required across the US. Like a lot of these things have advanced. They've got cell phone detection technology. They've got gait detection, voice detection, obviously all these fun new tools. And so I just really dove in and tried to make myself an expert on it. And people who were much more educated than me, even back in 2017, 18, 19, were warning about the rise of digital IDs and facial recognition. Taught a lot of people about the dangers of these, but this has been going on for a while. So when I was writing the book, it was trying to answer the question that you asked. It was like, in a world of emerging surveillance everywhere, and not only that, where a lot of people just give up their privacy voluntarily, is it even going to be possible in the coming years to stay free? Because I do think historically privacy and liberty are intrinsically tied. Once you lose privacy, then it's kind of hard to be free in many ways. And even 1984 warned about that. Like, you wouldn't even know if you were free in your own thoughts, that sort of thing. Right. So I do think it is possible. I don't think the majority of people, the vast, vast majority, even people who are so-called awake, are willing or ready to do what it might take to be free of these systems. And outside of that, I think there's, ways to be kind of inside and outside, but I do think it's going to get more and more difficult as digital IDs roll out, as these systems roll out. We're going to have to make a choice. Like, just in the last year, the head of the TSA has said, in the next 2 years, they expect facial recognition to be mandatory at all airports. I wrote about this in my book and was basically saying, at some point, we're going to have to draw the line. Each of us as individuals have to decide what sort of technology we want to say yes to and which ones we don't want to. And what does that mean? Does that mean you stop flying? For some people, including myself, it will. For others, they'll make a compromise. And I do think the more we make those compromises, then we get more used to this kind of technocratic world they're building. And before you know it, you aren't free from it anymore. And then it becomes extremely difficult to be outside of that system, because if like, for example, I went to Denmark recently and they don't have this full on system, but they've already got digital IDs. And I was giving talks about this and warning about this, and they're like raising their hands, Derrick, we already have a digital ID here. And they explained how it's not even mandatory, but you can't do shit without it, man. You can't get on a bus. You can't, get insurance. You can't open a bank account. So, that's, I think, where we're headed all over the world. And if you can stay free of that, it's going to depend on what you're willing to do.
No, they already have that. I don't get it, but pre-check. They make you wait in line while everybody goes straight ahead, and that's because they were compromised and were willing to give out their face or their ID.
Exactly.
And now it's even gotten even more where you got the whatever the ID is called. What they're making us get the
real ID.
The real ID. Yeah.
So now if you don't even have the real ID, you got to wait in another line. And
wait, you can still get through if you don't have real ID?
Passport, I guess.
With just a passport,
I
yeah.
haven't done.
No, but
I haven't flown since I think passports and global entry and all those things are forms of real ID. I think that's how they view it. But
yeah, exactly.
I don't think you can get through it all.
I'm not getting a new one. I'm just going to use my passport.
You can definitely still get through with just a passport. I actually just put out a report about this a couple of weeks ago. And again, this is just another gateway to digital IDs. Like right now, it's just like if people look at their ID, whatever state you are, if there's like a little star in the corner, you've already got real ID. You probably got it without realizing it. And that way, and people like Ron Paul were warning about this back right after 9/11 when they started talking about this, that it's no longer just, Texas's ID, California, et cetera. It starts to become closer to being a national ID card. But at the airport and federal buildings, you can still use your passport for now. And then there's also two other options. Besides the new state ID, real ID, or passport, you can use what they're calling mobile driver's licenses or just digital driver's license. And again, this is like another step in that digital ID. So you can have it loaded to like an Apple wallet or a Google wallet. And in some states are now having their own digital wallets. It's still very early, but if you look on the TSA's website, it says that they'll accept that as well for right now. And so I've kind of been warning people, like, if you're already used to doing everything on your phone, for most people, it's not going to be a big changeover. Okay, all of a sudden I just throw my ID on there, whatever, no big deal, right? But that's us getting closer and closer to the sort of China WeChat system, or just one app to rule them all, one app with every single thing, your health information, your bank information, et cetera. And I think everybody here understands the danger of centralizing all that information.
But to be clear, though, with a regular ID, you cannot get through. Right.
No.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 100%. So like your normal state ID doesn't work as of today, May 7th.
Oh, today it started.
Yeah. So, Sam, as of today, if you don't have your passport or the real ID, you will be missing your flight.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a little global entry thing, a little card, little ID
Johnny,
card.
You're such a sheep.
No, it's pre-check, Sam. It's the same thing you have. Remember when you did pre-check and you told everybody to get it? So we did. Oh.
Well, I do think that an important point there is that a lot of people are going to be sold these systems, not even just Real ID, but in the broader systems we're talking about here. in numerous ways. And I've always thought the two like most convenient ways is entertainment and then of course fear. And like on the entertainment side of things, we see like video game technology testing out facial recognition. So some people are getting familiar with it and comfortable with it that way. You see, like I've heard from friends who go to football games or baseball games or whatever, that most stadiums now, I think Ticketmaster, through them, they're not even allowing like doing physical tickets anymore, right? So that's all digital. Yeah. People are getting comfortable with that. And they're rolling out facial recognition at the football stadium. So it's like they're using these ways that, not to say all people who watch sports, I enjoy sports, are sheep and just going to follow along. But I do think a lot of people will be like, oh, I want to get into the concert. I want to get into the game. Okay, whatever. I'll just, do what I have to do. People aren't necessarily protesting that. And I feel like that's just one of the easier ways. Get it in through the entertainment side. And then, of course, use fear of like, we need to get digital IDs for voting or whatever.
They do that at the Intuit Dome, which is owned by one of the committee of 300, which is Steve Ballmer, who owns the Clippers. I mean, imagine being that Imagine being that powerful and you can't even get out of the first round of the playoffs.
That must drive you crazy. It's got to drive you crazy.
That's got to be nuts. It's like, dude, I run a giant pedophile network.
Sam, but aren't the sports rigged? That's what everybody keeps telling me. I haven't even dove into it all, but is that true? What do you think? Have you guys talked about it or had a guest talk about that?
We just talked about it.
We just talked a little bit with Jay Dyer on that.
Okay.
So, we would say that they rig certain things. For sure. I don't know how they're allowed to do a total rigging with so much money being bet. That seems to me like that's a lawsuit waiting to happen, like a ridiculous call or something like that. But we've seen it happen. Like a very famous basketball play 25 years ago was the Larry Johnson 4-point play. Like they needed 4 points to stay in the game, and Larry Johnson shoots, and they call a foul, and there wasn't even a foul. And I'm a Knicks fan, so.
Well, that's like the one you said with I didn't know that they fired some Super Bowl refs. Obviously, because there was some sketchy shit. But us normal people that don't watch football, you're just like, it was weird that Taylor Swift made it to the Super Bowl.
You knew that's all they wanted, dude. And so is it? I mean, obviously,
that seems totally scripted. Her ended up there, the boyfriend romance thing, all that.
And like all the sports talk radio show people who host or who are normally great, and some are just annoying, but that's why you listen to them, to hate listen. But, they were just gaslighting their crowd. Like, dude, they can't rig it. They're not going to rig it. They're not, and it's just like, no, dude, we were right. You were wrong. You'll never go back. Like I'm so old school. I listen to NBA radio on Sirius, and those two of the hosts that are a really great show, just gaslighting their listeners about vaccines, about just get it. If you're a team player, you'll get it. And then a year later, they're like, we never said that. We would never tell you to get a vaccine. And they were 100% doing it. And now you got all of these NBA players, all two major ones, two that we've heard of, that we focus on, that have gotten blood clots. And it's like nobody wants to listen to us. Again, with the fires, we told you they were going to take over. They were going to eminent domain that shit. And look at what they're doing right now. Yeah, if you don't tell us, we're going to take your property. And it's just crazy to me because I don't know why people are so resistant. I understand my mom. She's almost 80. She's I don't care. What are they going to do to me? I sleep in my bed all day. I don't give a shit. But it's like young people. It's just like they're so distracted and they just don't care. And these young kids with all the internet and all the stuff on there and this kind of weird way where they're like anti-political correct, but in some ways they're like super conformative. Like they're so conformative. And I just don't get it because they have what appears to be more options than ever. Yet they just conform to the official narrative.
I think a lot of the younger generation feels totally I mean, they do have like more options in some ways, but you guys have probably seen or read over the years of people talking about it, this idea, and I think there's truth to it that, that millennials and then Gen Z people like there's less home ownership. There's less people moving out later if they are moving out at all. And I definitely know I could name like a handful of friends, maybe 10, who aren't bums, who definitely aren't lazy or anything like that, but are still, if not living with their parents, or they've gone back at least once or twice, a couple times, right, in the pursuit of trying to make it on their own just because things being tougher for them financially, or shit costing more, rent going up, et cetera, like that. So there's definitely, I feel like my younger brother is like 27, so we're 13 years apart, and I don't know if that's even like really a major thought in his head. Obviously not everybody, but it seems like among him and his friends group, it just seems to be kind of more normalized, where I just remember being like ready to get the hell out of my house as soon as possible and go out and do my own thing. And yeah, so I don't know. It seems like some of them, they might have more options, but some also I feel like completely like that there's just nothing, or at least that's the message that's being, especially when you put in climate change narrative too, then they're really like, oh my God, we're screwed. I
was talking to somebody pretty important in my life today, and they were telling me how it's really hard to find American workers who are disciplined. Like, and that sometimes that people that hire her, unfortunately, don't want foreigners cleaning their houses. Okay, yep, there we said it. But when they try to get Americans, there's no attention to detail. There's this notion that I could do whatever I want, and I do believe that's in a weird way this American Idol effect.
Do you think if they got paid more, they'd do a better job? Like, let's say a white person, if you pay a Mexican and a white person the same, I'm pretty sure, like you said, maybe the Mexican might do a little better because they want to regain the job. They don't want to lose this job. They're like, dude, if I don't do a good job, she might not call me again to clean this house.
Well, that's what Joey Diaz calls immigrant mentality.
Yeah,
where it's like
the other person's just like, if I don't get called, I can just go to McDonald's, I can apply again. It's this thing where if they got paid more. It's
a double thing. Everyone's like, nobody wants to work. Well, they want to work, but are they disciplined?
Also, this idea of paying your dues just doesn't exist anymore.
That's what I was trying to say, the American Idol effect, where it's like you had these people who are all working at Dave & Buster's one week, and the next week they're playing arenas, and it's this notion that that's how you got to do it.
Apprenticeship, we've talked about it before, apprenticeship is just dead.
Taking your time to learn the skills is definitely... and the internet does that too. You see a lot of like comics going.
People would rather be influencers or try to go viral or something.
Yeah. And when that's going to destroy our country as well, dude, going viral. The technocrats, I mean, we see it all the time. I want to get in some with you real quick, Derrick. You have, I think I've seen you, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are people who have labeled you black pill, and I have issue with that. And I would love to hear your opinion because you, Whitney, Webb, you often hear that said in almost like a slur type of way. And, I've had people come on my show and talk about how they feel like the black pill label is another intelligence agency move along the way that conspiracy theorists was. The way the New York Times and all these other people, they still call it, oh, this is a wild conspiracy. Like everyone does and most people know, most conspiracies have been true. Okay. So
yeah, there's definitely a lot that are true. Yeah, no, I feel you on that, man. And you're not mistaken, especially around the selection, myself and Whitney and really everybody that we started to form this thing called the Independent Media Alliance actually around the election. Because we were like looking around and like, man, there's a lot of people losing their freaking minds and just falling for the same old shit again or making excuses for this and from our perspective. And so we wanted to bring together people that we thought we could, collaborate with. And we've been doing these kind of bi-weekly panels. And anyways, as soon as we announced that, there was just this swarm of kind of hate coming for us because, of course, it's the election and people are losing their minds and it's the most important election of our lifetime again and all this sort of stuff. And so that was like a common thing is you guys are just black pilled. You're just black pilled every time myself or Whitney or somebody in the crew would point out the closeness with Trump and the Zionists or Peter Thiel. And, all the things that we talked about have been proven correct in just the first few months. We're now living in the Palantir World Order. And yeah, I've noticed the same thing. And I think I even tweeted something about that, like that black pill is the new conspiracy theorist or something to that effect, because it certainly feels that way. And I mean, to be certain, there are absolutely people I would say in the broader conspiracy space who are black pilled and some people who wear that label happily. They're like, yeah, I don't care. We're screwed. There's nothing we can do. You guys just need to accept it. And so it's funny and annoying for me personally to get that label because anybody who regularly follows my work know that I spend quite a bit of time trying to focus on solutions, including the How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State book. It's part like, here's our current situation, but it's mostly, as the title implies, a how-to guide, things that I've done myself to avoid banks, to avoid talking to the IRS, to, get more connected to land, all these kinds of ideas. So I've spent a lot of my years focused on solutions and how to get people more connected locally, and just things that I think are more valuable than voting and things of that sort. But because it's not a solution in terms of voting or supporting the system, then some people take that, they're kind of still stuck in that bubble, that programming from my perspective. And so they have this, it's like in the Matrix, they talk about people who are so helplessly dependent on the system that they'll fight you to defend it. It's kind of like how I feel. Some people take it as a personal attack for somebody to say, this politician isn't who you believe, or this isn't going to solve your problems. People want to put, I get that things feel hopeless often, so people put all their hope in that. And then if you poke holes in it and you destroy their illusion, then they can be quite aggressive. And so it was mostly from people who were, I would say, Trump supporters, who didn't want to hear things related to anything critical of Trump, because again, it was the most important election of our lifetime. If you're poking holes in Trump, then maybe there's a chance Kamala's going to win, and we'll think about that later, Derrick. Don't talk about it now. We need to be united or something. But I never felt, that's not my movement. So yeah, it was an interesting thing, and it's still there, but it seemed like it was reaching like a new height right around the election.
Everywhere. And, and then you get into, like, I got to ask you, Derrick, do you believe that Jimi Hendrix is Morgan Freeman? Do you believe that? Because apparently,
holy shit, I've never heard that one.
No, because if you don't believe that, you're controlled up according to the internet.
Clearly,
but when you get into that, and this kind of like this thing that the conspiracy community does, that they always say the left does, which is eat their own. I see that happen all the time. And even within great researchers, I'll see great researchers going after other great researchers, whether it's saying you stole my ideas, that's not correct. And at the end of the day, it should be, do we both basically agree the government did something, the intelligence agencies did this, did that? And I just feel like that is another, I don't know if it's necessarily intelligence controlled, because I think some of them aren't intelligence controlled at all.
Sure.
It's just this kind of thing where it just becomes boxing. You saw that in comedy early. Like
the focus is on the differences, not the similarities.
100%.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's also becomes like a personality contest. This to me, like and look, I'm guilty of it. Like I talk shit with the best of them out there, but I don't try to do it in the sense of what we're describing here, where it's just like a personality contest. Like it's high school never ends, right? And that's kind of what it feels like sometimes. I'm on the internet and here's these different cool kids with a certain amount of followers, and then somebody goes at each other, and it's clear that some people in the audience, just the viewing public, love it. They like it. Like they get off to this shit. They like, they love the drama. It's like, I don't know, it gives them something to be excited about. They're like, forget the mainstream pop culture and drama. We want our, conspiracy drama. This person's arguing with this person and calling this person a shill. I think that's mostly a waste of time. I mean, for multiple reasons. And that's, even with saying there are people I am very suspicious of and people I don't trust. And I'm just not a trusting guy. So I tend to trust people about, the more I get to know them, especially if it's an in-person thing, then, you tend to maybe trust them a little bit more. But I kind of take everybody on that approach. Like I'll work with you, collaborate with you, network with you up until a point where I'm like, nope, they're up to some shady shit. I'm going to just move on and do my own thing. Once they prove themselves unworthy or untrustworthy. But I think it also does turn into what you're describing every one of us, you do anything on the internet, you're going to get called a shill, you're going to get called controlled opposition, and people come up with the silliest things. And it's partially because, we are in a movement of paranoid people who question the government and who know that the government does do shady shit like that. We have COINTELPRO, we have, clear evidence of them infiltrating social media. And this is why David Icke and others, including myself, have started to use the term mainstream alternative media, because we really do believe there is a section of the so-called independent media, alternative media, that is actually funded by different groups who are trying to steer the conversation in a certain direction and divide the broader movement, if you will. And some of that's just natural. People are going to have difference of opinions, and it should be okay. But I do think this is a big problem in the conspiracy culture. Like it seems like, I'll just give you a recent example where I got a little bit of attack from the online, mob. I've been working on my documentary series, The Pyramid of Power, and as the final episode is answering the question, who's at the top? And so I'm going through every rabbit hole, the Jesuit, I'm looking at all the different controversial things, and I'm trying to study it though from like a real, like I try to take, I think, a bit more of a nuanced perspective and not just speculate and reading 300-year-old books and going to documents and doing all this fun shit. So anyways, I just put it out there through social media I said one thing, I said, what if blaming everything on the psyop? Or I said, what if, that's one of the psyop? And then I also asked other questions, just honestly throwing shit out, knowing it was probably going to cause something. But that ends up with me getting memes shared of me with the big nose and saying, oh, you're just saying this because you're. And it's just an example to me of how the conspiracy community, especially on Twitter, I think, it's not the most intelligent space to be in, honestly. I mean, sometimes I feel very separated apart from it, not trying to, look at me, I'm so better or anything like that. But I do think there's a certain low level of discourse among some people, and it's just like, oh, this person's a shill, this person's this, and then also people repeating things, and like somebody accuses me of something and somebody else doesn't need evidence, they just take that and run, and next time they hear my name or your name, Sam, they're going to say, no, I heard this guy's a Freemason or this guy's a whatever. They don't got the evidence for it, they don't have any proof, but it's now being repeated and spread around, and it is the internet, it's life, I guess. But it's I guess many of us, myself naively included, in the beginning thought maybe we were kind of coming into a space that was more enlightened and people who care about the future of the planet and want to get to the truth. And so we're all kind of united by that desire. But it doesn't always feel that way for sure.
Guys, real quick, I want to tell you about a situation. I spend my days vigilanting, going through the streets of the valley, keeping it safe for the ladies. And I've seen more ladies walking on the street than ever. And you know why I do it? Because True Classic gives me the gear I need to fight crime. That's right. I gotta be able to kick high to the head. Okay, make no doubts about it. I gotta be Ralph Macchio in the new Karate Kid over 50 doing high kicks to the head. Okay, and I need clothes that let me move. And there's no better clothes to be a vigilante and keep the safe to fight crime. The number one gear for crime fighters is True Classic. Let me tell you, I got bad angles too, dog. I
totally agree.
Shut up, Johnny. I have bad angles, dude. Okay, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh, and he taketh my angles. Okay, a lot of taking. All right, and that's all right because he gave me two things: ability to talk shit and volume, and that's all I really want. Okay.
What colors?
Oh my God! Look how good looking that is. So this is what we got to do, dude. Real quick, everybody, go to trueclassic.com/tinfoil. That's trueclassic.com/tinfoil. And dude, listen, skip the cheap throwaways. True Classic delivers premium essential built for real life. Grab yours at Target or Costco. Bang!
Woo! Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
We're reaching the masses, man. And a lot of people are talking about it's because of this show, Tinfoil Hat.
I heard
that's
that.
helped them grow a billion-fold, okay? So here's what you need. Head to trueclassic.com/tinfoil to get hooked up today. And we thank them for helping me keep the streets safe for the ladies. Thank you, True Classic. Hey guys, real quick, I'm telling you about our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. That's right. If you want to get out of this control system of the elites, there's no better way to do it than precious metals, and there's no better people to work with than our good friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. Let me tell you about Wise Wolf Gold and Silver. If you're paying attention, you know that de-dollarization is real. Fiat is fake, and you don't want to be left holding the bag when the dollar collapses. Gold and silver have been money through all of recorded history and are an excellent way to protect yourself from inflation and geopolitical turmoil. That's why I trust my friends at Wise Wolf Gold and Silver for all precious metals, all things precious metals. I love it. I am part of the Wolf Pack. Every month I have precious metals sent right to my house, and I love it. See, Wise Wolf Gold and Silver is veteran owned and A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau. No transaction is too big or too small. You can even roll over your 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver. And if you think you can't afford precious metals, think again. With the Wolfpack monthly membership program, you can get gold and silver delivered directly to your door for as little as $50 a month. As little as $50 a month, you can have precious metals. You start loading it up, man. By the end of the year, you'll have a good chunk of precious metals. Dude, it's crazy. You just go to samtripoli.gold. You can see all the different plans they have. Man, it's like $50. Lone Wolf, Warrior Wolf, $125. Alpha Wolf is $250. And it just keeps going up. Sent to your house. Right there. It's that simple. It's that simple. Easy peasy. Get in, get out, get your gold, get your silver. I love it. I'm doing it. Dude, I'm telling you, all of these affiliates I use, and I use Wise Wolf gold and silver. I use it all the time. It's real simple. So if you want to get in, this is how you do it. Wise Wolf gold and silver also deals in and accepts Bitcoin. So here's what I need you to do. Okay, go to samtripoli.gold, promo code tinfoil at checkout to receive free constitutional silver. That's right. And remember, in a world of bulls and bears, be the wolf. Yeah, there's a naivety when you're young about idealism, and then you kind of grow up and you realize, especially like I'm in recovery, right? And you go to these meetings, you think everyone's a Buddha, but I'm like, these are the same people that were assholes at the club. They're just sober assholes now. And a lot of them have changed, but you're going to run into personalities. The problem with people are people, man. Like, they just have personalities, and it's hard to deal with, and not everybody has pure intentions. And it's, and like, especially like, I'd love to hear who you decide was the top of the pyramid, but, like I've always said, if you go hard to the right or you go hard to the left, right, you blow up way more. If you go down the middle and it's every issue is a discussion for you on what is the correct take on it, that's hard to do because that involves thinking. And we're just simple creatures, man. The less we have to think, the more we enjoy something. I see it in comedy all the time. The minute you make a crowd person think, the laughter isn't the same. It's the simpler the comedy, the more they laugh, and we see that with this in the conspiracy community. And I don't know if every person who is controlled op, air quotes, knows they're controlled op. I think sometimes if you're constantly on the front page of YouTube, there's something probably there, a lot.
Yeah, like you said, you might not even be like you're working for the CIA or something. It could just be that you happen to be promoting certain opinions that somebody somewhere finds valuable or useful, or that they think they can, they would benefit from having you out there promoting that opinion. Somehow that, that's going to lead them somewhere that they'd like to get. And you also said a good point there, Sam, that I think a lot of times, again, in our paranoid conspiracy communities, we're much more prone to jumping to intelligence agents, whatever, when in reality, I mean, yes, I do think these things exist. And there's, like I said, I have my suspicions, but also we divide ourselves so easily. They don't even really have to do much. I mean, I think it's just like, if anything, maybe they had to try harder back in the day because they had to go to meetings and kind of whisper and, send MLK letters and this kind of thing. Now they can just get online with bots and just talk a bunch of shit and everybody's arguing. And we make up conspiracies ourselves. Sometimes people are really just ego driven or money driven, or they're just assholes, and that's just that. It's not that they're a CIA agent or something. They just suck, as a person, and they happen to be looking for truth, but they're not necessarily, they have other human flaws. And so we can sometimes, I think, ascribe conspiracies to human flaws and human issues.
I agree. So let's get into what you wanted to talk about on here, and I appreciate the conversation. Let's talk about the sweatiest human being on planet Earth, and that's Peter Thiel. I've never seen anybody sweat more than this guy. He looks like he has IBS.
Maybe Prince Andrew during that one interview.
Dipped in KY jelly.
It's so crazy. He is always sweating. Like he just has to use the bathroom. I don't know what it is, or he's got a secret and he's worried it's about to come out. But
keeping his butthole.
Look at that, dude. Look at that, man. Have you ever seen a dude that shiny all the time?
Something ain't right.
Something.
I bet you it's something to do with. I bet it's some kind of longevity thing, dude. I bet you he's doing something.
It could be all that. He's got that company that's involved with like the youth. Blood. Yeah. I can't remember the name of it right now. Maybe he's doing transfusions with youth blood that makes him extra sweaty. Peter Thiel sweaty.
Some type of
plenty of examples.
He'd be on like some type of roids or something. To
I don't know
Such
what
a
it is,
strange
but
guy.
I've never seen that before in my life. Every picture.
Oh, the other one
Shiny
is
as
like, he said it's that Prince that always sweats. What's his name? The one that
Prince Andrew.
Prince Andrew. He sweats too randomly for no reason, and he was interviewed about
Yeah,
it.
there's a reason.
Yeah, because they got secrets. They got secrets. They
This
don't want
Thiel,
to.
though, that's real power because there's no way he would be out front unless he, like you don't make him the face of anything. This guy, he's so bizarre looking unless you have real
There's
power.
no picture in which he's not
And
sweating.
he can't even keep a straight sentence. Like if you actually heard, it's not like he's some brilliant speaker or anything
No.
like that. He's like, and I'm not trying to hate on anybody with a stutter. I'm just saying this dude is like, one of the evil ones. And it does feel like sometimes like Revenge of the Nerds is what's going on. And they're billionaires now and they've got technology and knowledge about all of us. And they're gotten government contracts, military contracts. Yeah, we're definitely living in the Palantir Peter Thiel world order.
And, he's part of the PayPal mafia. I think he invented PayPal. And then, Elon Musk came in and grabbed all the glory. But I guess they kind of like, hey, dude, just play ball and you'll get anything you want and more. So where do you want to go with Peter? Because he's very interesting, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, again, my articles, for those folks who want to find them, can be found at thelastAmericanVagabond.com. I write weekly there. And around the election and prior to the election, but especially around the election, I was trying to point to Peter Thiel because, he was supporting Trump during the first time. For those who don't know, he's a steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group. Obviously, PayPal Mafia, as you said, Sam. Palantir is basically the private surveillance firm for the CIA. They got CIA funding from Enquetel. Their whole beginning of their project came from former government, U.S. government project known as Total Information Awareness that got shut down after 9/11 because even 20 years ago, people cared more about privacy than they do now. And Total Information Awareness, the one with the logo with the all-seeing eye overlooking the earth, that got shut down. And then the same people involved in that went and talked to Palantir, Peter Thiel, and Alex Karp, who are both steering committee members of the Bilderberg Group now, and basically helped them develop what they wanted to do publicly through the government, privately through Palantir. And Palantir has now been around for 20 years, but they've never seen as much growth as they've seen just in the first 4 years of the Trump administration in terms of like their stock and financial portfolio, but also in terms of the amount of people who are in this, what the media sometimes calls the Thielverse, Peter Thiel universe, Alex Karp, Palantir. They're all up in Doge. They're all up in different cabinet positions. Two of my articles that I think are important for people to check out, and I'll send them over to you guys. One is called Meet the Peter Thiel Acolytes in the Second Trump Administration. And so I was talking about this before Trump got into office, warning people this is probably what's going to happen. And then, once he starts making appointments, you could just go down the line and there's people who are either working for the Thiel Foundation, working for PayPal, working for Palantir, somewhere connected to Peter Thiel and, close relationships. So there's about a dozen, I think actually last count I had was 18 people because I just updated, I put out another article called Welcome to the Palantir World Order. And it is doing this, just looking at the amount of contracts that Palantir has got with the U.S. government now, the U.S. military. And SpaceX and Palantir, they're partnering on what they're calling the Golden Dome over the U.S., which is going to be like Israel's Iron Dome, and they're going to have satellites and missiles to defend us and all this sort of stuff. So Palantir's getting massive contract for that. Elon Musk, SpaceX, they have this other program called Starshield, which is basically the private or the military side to Starlink. Everybody's getting Starlink for the internet, but at the same time as they're throwing up those satellites, they're also creating this private surveillance network called Starshield, which we only know so much about it. The main thing we know is that it's a $1.8 billion contract with SpaceX for Starshield with the Geospatial Agency, which is the ones who handle all the satellites, if you believe in satellites, around the world. And so they're with that. Palantir is also working with the Trump administration to locate illegal immigrants, and maybe some people think that's a good thing if depending on your view on that issue, but I don't think it's going to stop with just tracking illegal immigrants. They're just building a closer relationship with Palantir and with ICE and using their AI to track people, to scan social media, to locate them. They're now partnering with the IRS. That's been recently reported to help them
sorry to cut you
make
off,
it more efficient.
What they're doing with illegal immigrants is what Amazon did with books. They just pick a group that nobody really cares about, like it doesn't really affect them. So Amazon built their whole system on selling books, and nobody cared about books. I was like, who cares about books? Who cares about bookstores, right? So they worked the system, worked out all the kinks, and then when it was done, they moved into everything else, and now everything but Walmart is basically going out of business. And I like to go out and buy stuff. You know, that's what I like to do, but I'm old school. So, you know, the younger...
No, but you're right. They took all the errors to make sure you get that shit overnight.
Yeah, they figured it out. And so what Derrick's talking about is they're working this new AI system on illegals, and they're getting a bunch of people, probably the right, that would normally say this is unconstitutional or whatever, and they're accepting it.
And it's so hard to talk to people about this. We talked about it on Broken Sim a couple of weeks ago about the Supreme Court decision, you know, and we got, you know, quite a few comments of people saying, I just can't believe you guys feel this way about this. And I replied to every one of them. I was like, okay, so what happens the next administration with the same power?
Exactly.
And they decide that you're an insurrectionist, so you've lost your rights as a citizen.
They already did it with January 6th.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Those two precedents together.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people are having issues with the illegal immigration conversation because there's clearly examples of people who came to the U.S. illegally and then end up committing crimes, right? And of course, Trump and I think the right wing and the Republicans for the last 4 years have just done nothing but hype that up, both real issues and then I think many cases exaggerated ones and stories that turned out later to not be true. Whether they turned out to be true or not, it doesn't matter. People heard it and they thought it was real, right? And they just believe it. And that's, again, part of the internet. So many people have heard like the illegal immigrants are just killing people, they're raping people, they're doing this and that. So at this point, they're just like, we don't care. I mean, I've had so many people say, this is what I voted for. I don't care. They won't listen of like, hey, what about when it's used against you by the next guy or when the other team has it? And they're just like, I don't care. They're just stuck in this present moment and we're so busy winning and it's the golden age of America or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that definitely worries me to see Palantir working closely with ICE. I encourage people to look into that. It was reported by 404 Media first, and it's a $95 million contract just developing this AI system. They're also helping them develop like a specific operating system for all of ICE's networks called Immigration OS. And yeah, in general, making it more efficient, which it's kind of another conversation I wrote about a while back about how even the use of this efficiency, like with Doge, there's actually a historical movement that I'd never heard about until a couple months ago called the efficiency movement, which predates the technocracy movement of the 1930s. And it was sort of like, how can we make the workplace more efficient? And how can Carnegie funded it, Rockefeller funded it. And they were even like studying human movements, like, okay, in the factories, if this person takes a left instead of a right when they pick up that box, that we save 2 seconds and, $500 or something like that. They were measuring it down to that point. And I think in many ways, what we're seeing with Elon promoting, we're going to make government more efficient. Sure, they're going to reveal certain things, but it's ultimately about making the technocracy. Like, sure, get rid of bureaucracy, which was the original idea of the technocrats. We don't need government. We don't need voting. We don't need capitalists. We need the engineers, the scientists to be micromanaging and running society. So I don't think this is what people really think it is in terms of the Great Awakening and the Golden Age. And so they're willing to sort of overlook things like this. Or like you said, Sam, too, there's so much of like, it doesn't affect me, so what do I care, right? Or they put the worst case scenario. Here's an illegal immigrant who killed and murdered and raped and did all these horrible things, and it's just propaganda. And so then people looking around, they're like, well, that could be a killer, that could be a murderer. And I guess also I'm probably a little biased in this, in the sense that my partner Miriam, her family is an immigrant community. She's first generation born in the U.S. from Mexico. They came illegally in the 90s, and then there was like a program under Clinton, and they became legal citizens, and they did the whole thing. Good, tax-paying, upstanding people. They live in a small immigrant community north of Houston, and I wouldn't say everybody there has their paperwork in order necessarily, but they're all good people. They're just people like raising their kids and just living their lives. And so there's clearly going to be, just like with everything the government does, going to be innocent people mixed up in this. And that's what we saw post 9/11. They built up all the terror. And so then they start doing rendition, kidnapping people off the streets, and, random brown people and Muslim people getting mixed up in it. And then like, whoops, sorry. And those lawsuits are still going on to this day. A lot of people don't know that. They're still trying to fight for justice of people who are illegally taken with no proof of terrorism or anything like that. And who knows if in like 5-10 years, we're going to be seeing lawsuits about what's happening now with them taking people away and then realizing, oops, we made a mistake. But,
January 6ers, for sure. I mean, when you go, I'm okay with illegals being deported without due process, okay, you just know that that is the same argument being used against January 6ers, that they tried to overthrow the government. Okay, and we saw this with California. Do you guys remember when Gavin Newsom, okay, was like, "Hey man, stay home, be indoors," because while simultaneous saying, because of we're gonna let all these prisoners out of prison. I don't know how you have those two thoughts at the same time, but it becomes obvious what they wanted to do, which was a surge in crime. So once you get a surge in crime, then you start having people beg to be saved. It's the classic demoralization, so that you can initiate your plans, which is martial law. So
it blows me away to see people not recognizing that, what you're just describing there, Sam. I mean, I think I shared this a couple of weeks ago, saying like many of the same people cheering on what's happening now were the same people rightfully complaining and pushing back against being labeled extremists by, during 1984, because in my mind, gang member is now the new terrorist. Gang member is the new extremist. Gang member is the, or whatever, anti-vaxxer. It's just another term that if you apply that at somebody, especially under the current way they're acting right now with like wanting to ignore the courts, I mean, they could just take you and haul you away and keep promising and claiming in the public, yeah, we know he's a gang member because of this thing or that thing, and never proving it, because that's basically what we're witnessing now. And so, I mean, I've been
all that stuff, illegals, January 6ers, all of it will go under domestic terrorist. That's the term they want everybody. That was what the governor kidnapping psyop was about. That's what January 6th is about. Getting everybody okay with labeling their neighbor as a domestic terrorist. And once you do that, your constitutional rights are gone. So, I say it on every show I go to. I'm sorry, guys, if you heard a bunch of times. But the ACLU, back in the day when they actually did good work before Trump shish kebabbed their brains, okay, they would go defend the worst of the worst, because you had to defend them. Because if you sacrifice your principles on people you don't like, it will be used against you again. Everything's about getting you okay with black bagging people.
Yeah, exactly. Remember, this all started back with Obama. It started long before that, but in modern times with Anwar al-Awlaki. Remember that guy? That he was a U.S. citizen, and he was droned without any trial or anything abroad. They murdered him. The government didn't even attempt to bring him back for trial.
8 years, 0 scandals. Remember?
They also killed his son too, in a separate drone bomb. Yeah. And then you know what? Trump killed his daughter when he was in office with a drone bomb.
Oh, I didn't know that. His daughter.
They're just killing bloodlines.
Yeah, Trump dropped more drone bombs than Obama. That's another thing. Like, there's this bullshit about him being a peace president. That he didn't start many new wars, which is partially true, but also it's a kind of a low bar to think like, okay, he just kept the many wars that the U.S. has going on. He didn't bother to stop them, but he actually dropped more drone bombs than Obama. And then also when he was in office, he passed issued an executive order removing the reporting requirement. So when Biden came in office, we actually have no idea how many bombs Biden dropped, drone bombs, because they were no longer even, not that we necessarily would trust the government reporting, but you can imagine if they're willing to say 100, there's probably more. But yeah, after Trump dropped his record amount, he decided there's not going to be any more reporting requirements. So during Biden's term and now Trump's second term, we have to rely on like private organizations that are doing their best to, follow the media and on the ground reports of drone bombings.
Yeah, and you don't start a war if you don't have to go declare a war, right? Like, we used to have a checks and balances where the Congress or the Senate would have to green light the war. That's done. Syria, Yemen, we don't do any of that. And then we have cutout agencies that do our dirty work. The IDF, Israel, Israel, of course, but ISIS, those are all proxy armies.
And it's mainstream now. Ron Paul was laughed off the stage multiple times over the years, in 2008 and 2012 for bringing up that very issue about not declaring war, Congress losing their power, to declare war, because we just have these actions.
They haven't followed that for so long. Like, that's why, like you said, they just laugh at it because they're like, come on, we know nobody's asking for a declaration of war anymore. In fact, the last time it almost happened, it was during Trump's first term, because he was funneling billions of dollars to the Saudis as they were starving Yemen. And you actually had like a brief moment, bipartisan support, where they got a bill passed that said that they would basically require the president to issue a declaration of war. And Trump vetoed it. Because he didn't, of course, didn't want to have to do that.
Yeah, 100%. So, you, of course, he hadn't started a war because we don't do traditional setting up wars anymore. So that's how it goes. Hey, guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our good friends at MeUndies. Listen, let's talk about the real MVP of your wardrobe. The one thing that you should never let down, your underwear. So if you're anything like me, you know what I'm talking about. It's time to upgrade. And I did this with the Ultra Model Ball Caddy Boxer Briefs from MeUndies. Ball Caddy is really the perfect way to describe how they feel. Dude, your nuts feel loved. Constantly caressing you. That's what I love about it, dude. I'm like,
too.
oh, man, MeUndies loves me nuts.
Love my package.
These game-changing briefs are designed for next-level support. No squishing, no sticky, just pure cloud-like comfort. There isn't a better description of how much love your package gets in this underwear. You feel like a king, hung like a horse. That's how it goes. MeUndies has a cut for every guy's butt with over 10 different styles ranging from boxer briefs to jock straps to our special pouch underwear called Ball Caddy that keeps your bat wings from ever winging again. Okay? Ever. I hate that stuff. Okay? I hate it, Johnny. You're always complaining about your balls sticking.
What does that mean, bat winging?
When your balls stick to your leg? That's the worst, Johnny. As a real man, you know what I'm talking about. Right?
Yeah, because they've been hanging, they slap on.
They stick, and it's just uncalled for. MeUndies' signature softer than soft Ultra Model fabric is breathable, stretchy, and so comfortable.
Really
okay? It's super so comfy. Okay?
So soft.
Making it ideal for all day wear. Okay? They use sustainable source materials that work with partners that care for their workers. Not happy with your first pair of undies? It's on MeUndies. So here's what we need to do. Slide into game-changing comfort with MeUndies. Support the show by going to MeUndies.com/tinfoil and use our code tinfoil to get 20% off your first order plus free shipping. That's MeUndies.com/tinfoil, code tinfoil for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in, and we thank them for sponsoring this show. Now, are there things I like that Trump says he's going to do? Yeah, of course. What he says and what he does are two different things. I'm still waiting for anything on the IRS and the Fed. But, I mean, if you said you did that, I'd be like, I'd take it at this point. These tiny little wins here and there. But overall, it's like, new boss, same boss.
I mean, Trump, in one of my mini documentaries I put out a couple of weeks ago, people can find it at my website. It's just like 15 minutes long, and it kind of summarizes my articles about Peter Thiel and Palantir. And I mean, when you go through that list of people I was saying who are connected to Peter Thiel, it's not just that they're connected to Peter Thiel and Palantir. I think that's enough of a reason to be like, okay, let's keep an eye on these people. But you've also got, besides the two steering committees and members of the Bilderberg Group with Alex Karp and Peter Thiel, which is already crazy to think that, not to say that they have never had influence in the White House, but we're talking about the dude who funded the entire Senate run for the current vice president. And it was, according to several reports, Musk and these technocrats out of Silicon Valley who told Trump he should pick Vance as his running mate, and he's most likely going to run for president, in the near future, right? So that guy didn't exist. He was just, out there doing his thing. Peter Thiel funds him with the biggest donation of $21 million. He wins a Senate seat. He's got like a Netflix movie all of a sudden for his Hillbilly Elegy book, and then he's vice president, right? These are these are important people that they're choosing. But you also see former young global leaders. You see attendees, like regular attendees of the World Economic Forum. And I just know that if it was the other, the shoe was on the other foot, if this was Biden, and not to say they're not affiliated with him, but just people will call these things out. But then when it's with Trump, I don't know. I was asking myself this today, like, is the Trump cult bigger than the Obama cult was? Or because there was never really a cult around Harris or Biden. It was just, they hate Trump, right? But Obama legitimately had, mass hysteria around him. And I don't know. And some days I do think that the Trump hysteria is worse, because I think we can all agree that for the most part, historically, the right, the Republicans, have at least been the ones that pretended to care about small government and pretended to care about the Second Amendment and certain things that you don't have to be a hard right, far right figure to care about and say are important. But in many ways, it seems like they're willing to say, okay, well, who cares about the Constitution? Because, we want King Trump in there. And then they're cheering on him, talking about running additional times, saying he's joking, even though they're selling 2028 Trump hats now, or tweeting out a picture of himself as Pope. Like, there's, some people pushing back against this. But for the most part, I just see a continued deification of him. And of course, that goes back to, the alleged assassination attempt and people immediately being like, he was saved by God. That's why he's here now.
Yeah, I instantly didn't buy into that. I know those events, they have layers there. And that guy, if they want him dead, he's not getting out of there. And because the people who are meant to protect him are in on it as well. And there's a part of me that thinks with Trump, there is fatigue of fighting the fight. And they just want to be, please, just somebody be on our side. So when you go, oh, he's just as dangerous. I always said, let's say Trump has the greatest presidency of all time. It's everything we've ever wanted for 364 days. Well, 365, you still should be putting his feet to the fire. It's free to do. And, somebody a long time ago on one of my premium content shows was like, when the press and everybody hates the president, it's a little better because they're constantly calling him out on his bullshit. When everybody is kind of sucking his dick, then you can get away with more shit.
Like Obama.
Yeah,
he deported more people than anybody, but everyone forgets about it because he's black.
He's black.
If he deports, it doesn't matter.
He's an outsider when he's really a Bush who's gay. I mean, and who cares
Bush
what your
had it
sexuality
too after 9/11. I mean, he was just cloaked in righteousness he got 2 years of just a blank check for 2 years. Bush I mean, the Iraq thing could have never happened without that. There's no way that would have happened.
Well, that's what my whole thing with all these anti-Semitism bills. It's like, you think if you allow it to keep going, we're all goose step in the ovens. Yeah. But in reality, 9/11, which Netanyahu was begging for, cost 4 million Iraqis their lives. That's literal death, not figuratively. And then you see like the far right and their Zionism doing the same thing that the progressives do, which is arguing about ideally what could happen. Not what is happening right currently or what did happen, but the idea of what could happen. Oh, dude, if we allow this speech to still happen, we're all going to be Nazis. And there's going to be, well, the Nazis worked with the Zionists. What are you talking about? The first head of of NATO was a Nazi. They didn't change their names. They were all the exact same guys.
I think that dynamic of what you guys are describing about like Bush getting a free pass for a couple of years because of 9/11 and just the country being in a fervor of like, we need revenge. I mean, I remember being 18 in 2003, watching the bombing starting to happen of Iraq. And they had me for a couple of months right before I became like a super anti-Bush, anti-war activist. But they had me for the first couple of months. I remember watching on TV and thinking like, oh my God, we're getting a bad guy. Like there's, they're dropping bombs on some bad dude. I didn't know shit about anything, but that's just what, the feeling was. That's what I was being told. And I think that it's just a perfect example of how the system in general passes the baton back and forth, and it allows people to just stay trapped in it. Because, Bush got to play the role of neocons. We all know the neocons are running the show and killing everybody. And there's rendition, there's profiling in the streets, there's all this stuff. And then here comes a young black man, constitutional lawyer, who's saying, we're going to end all that stuff. We're going to end the surveillance. We're going to look into the torture. We're going to do everything. And then, of course, we all know he gets in office and immediately says, we need to look forward, not backwards. And then goes and does like everything that Bush did and 10 times worse. And people are like, well, he's still better. Let's elect him one more time. And then after that, after like multiple decades, obviously it started before then, but for sure then like 9/11 and Obama, I think people left and right were just sick of it. And then Trump kind of comes in playing the role of the anti-establishment wrecking house. Like, we're going to totally change everything. He's like, throws a bone to the 9/11 truthers, throws a bone to the Federal Reserve people, and just says everything he can and promises these things, comes in and, at least from my perspective and my reporting, definitely still served the same deep state in a lot of ways. And my view is that all the alleged attacks on him, some of them I think were people who legitimately are just got, Trump broken brain, but it was done in a way, I think, an operation done on purpose to make the public lose faith in the corporate media, which on one hand I cheer, of course, but then at the same time, like they attack Trump for bullshit that is easily disprovable, Russia, whatever, right? People start to lose faith in the corporate media, and they're like, well, if they're attacking him, he must be a good guy, right? I mean, all the worst people in the world that we know are horrible. They're attacking this guy, and he says, I'm the only thing standing between them and you. I'm the one, they're coming after me because they're trying to get to you. This whole narrative. I just think that was all a huge operation. And then even bringing in Biden, like bring in this old dude, and it's like, we're going to go back to normalcy. So for the people who were just like, oh my God, I'm just stressed out by Trump, it was like, okay, anybody, just somebody better, right? And then of course, telling the other side that the whole thing was stolen from them. I just feel like that's how they build these narratives. And then of course the war continues, the Zionism continues, et cetera. But there's just these narratives that they're putting in front of us and using social media to maximize the reach, and allowing that baton to just pass back and forth and back and forth. And so Trump builds up a surveillance state that he inherited from Obama, that Obama inherited from Bush, and then Biden continues it. Biden continued deporting, continued all the things. And like you said a moment ago, brother, like the people will say one thing if it's the left, but then they'll ignore it when it's the right, and vice versa. And yeah, I mean, it's an intelligent operation, whether it's done by intelligence networks or just it's just happening by circumstance. But I definitely, in my view, these narratives have been crafted specifically because, like Ron Paul has mentioned, when they didn't want Ron Paul to win or even get support in 2008 and 2012, if they mentioned him at all, they talk shit about him. But for the most part, they just ignored him completely. So I think that if the media ever really didn't want Trump to, back in 2015, if they were just like, let's just blackball this guy, they would just not report on him. Instead, they reported on every single thing he said, every tweet, every stupid, just whatever, just hyped it up and built it up. So I don't think that there was this effort to keep him, from the White House and keep the people away from the anti-establishment hero.
I agree. And, we talked about Q a lot back in the day, and I said this on the show that Q could easily be them telling us everything they're doing because they wanted to destroy the old system. And sure shit, everything's going away. They are destroying these institutions. We are like, the WEF is on the brink of extinction. The UN's on the brink. This and that and this and this and that. And maybe that's fine. Maybe those institutions fulfilled their usefulness, right? So we don't need them anymore. We don't need a WEF anymore. We don't, because you remember when everything was ESG, and then that just became so toxic.
What happened to ESG?
It became DEI.
Yeah, and they've got something new now. I can't remember what it's called, but they're phasing DEI out in favor of this other acronym that I forgot.
Right, so now that's dead.
There's always another acronym.
Yeah, well, we have global boiling now instead of global warming.
Right, so a word gets a phrase, a word, a label gets so toxic that they just change it with a new term. And,
absolutely. That's exactly what they're doing.
And then we start to build up that. And then they just do that. Klaus Schwab, he's getting investigated for corruption. You're like, he's so toxic now that to those who know who he is, which most people don't, the whole thing is to make us so dumb we can't participate in government. Saturate us with useless knowledge so we can't participate.
Sam, what you said there about them, the WF was the focus for the years, and now they're kind of maybe drifting back to the background for the most part where they've been since the 70s. I think it's just because those groups are still the front-facing groups, right? You were asking about the pyramid of power. I'll tell you, man, I've been just so knee deep in this research. I think some of this you're going to really enjoy when we release this final episode. I've actually just been editing the audio right before we did this interview so I can send it off to my editor. And just for anybody who doesn't know, it's a 17-part documentary series called The Pyramid of Power that I've been working on for the last 5 years. And we have all 16 episodes available for free at thepyramidofpower.net. And it looks at the World Economic Forum, Bilderberg, but it really starts, like, my goal with it was, how can I take the best books and documentaries that exist out there, condense that down, and mix it with my own original research, but condense that down to 30 minutes or less of just like what you need to know to get caught up on this topic, and then have some suggested solutions at the end of each episode, and then end the episodes with, if you want to learn more, watch this documentary, read these books, etc. And so we started with education system, the media, big tech, and going on and on, the prison system, the foundations, etc., and getting like deeper and deeper. We released them in seasons of 4 episodes at a time. So we've been working on this the last 5 years, and now all 16 are out. And I've just finished, as of like a week ago, writing the 17th episode, the script for the final one, which is, trying to ask that question. All right, now we've described all these systems and these players. Well, who's at the top, or what's at the top? And I've been really lucky because I interviewed David Icke, James Corbett, G. Edward Griffin, Adam Green, Mark Passio, Larkin Rose, Richard Grove, Peter Dale Scott, who's another old school dude, and this professor, Richard Spence. I've interviewed them for this final episode, and just trying to consider all of the topics, like, everything controversial, everything like basic, and then super deep, and provide whatever evidence may be there. And then also in the process, try to debunk bullshit if there is bullshit, because I don't consider this series to be a conspiracy documentary. I consider it to be more like true crime, because I've really, like, everything that I've reported on is at thepyramidofpower.net. There's a transcript with all the sources and links to every reference, every book, every document, etc., that I've referenced throughout it. And so I've been working really hard on the 17th one, and then I finished it, and it turned out to be 4 hours long. So me and my editor spent the last week trying to cut it down, and I got it down. Like, I cut out a lot. I trimmed the fat, but I left, I'm going to turn that into a book later, so if people want to know like all the super nerdy stuff. But I took out about an hour out of it. So now it's going to be 2 hours and 45 minutes. And we just decided we're going to release this last episode in 2 pieces. And I cover, what is the deep state? BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, the World Economic Forum, the Club of Rome, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, the Roundtable Groups, the Committee of 300, the Zionists, the Freemasons, the Jesuits, the Jesuit Mason Connection, the Venetian Black Nobility, the Illuminati, the Dark Occultists, and the other worldly evil. And then I try to end with some solutions. So yeah, I bring in all these perspectives, and man, I again, what I was saying earlier about like some of my issues with the conspiracy community, for me, this has been like a fun exercise, because I'm like rereading a bunch of old books that I read when I first woke up. But I don't know about you guys, but when I first started waking up, I consumed so much shit, and it definitely wasn't all super credible. YouTube, early YouTube, you're just watching all kinds of documentaries. But I think sometimes maybe in the waking up process, you're just reading, learning, watching all kinds of things. And we get ideas up here, and we don't necessarily always have like firm beliefs, like some of us do. But, sometimes you're just like, yeah, the Illuminati or somebody's running the world. I don't really 100% know, but I know there's something going on. And so this kind of gave me a chance to go like look at a lot of my old research that I'd originally done, and like, do I still believe those things? Was that actually accurate? And then do a whole bunch of new research for myself, like reading, proofs of a conspiracy and Engineer Core from Hell, these foreign conspiracy against the U.S., these books written in like the 1700s, 1800s about the Jesuits, about the Masons, and then of course about trying to look at them in an honest perspective and like, okay, this is what people claim, and here's what we can actually prove, and here's what people claim, and here's what it's based on. Take it, for what it's worth. And yeah, it's been a really deep work. But like what I was kind of saying is those groups, though, they're still just like at the level of the roundtable groups, which is what Carol Quigley was talking about in Tragedy and Hope with Cecil Rhodes and the Milner Group, and forming this secret society that would have a public journal like the Council on Foreign Relations, Foreign Affairs, and would have a public facing group, but then really would just be the representation of the deeper inner circle group. And then of course the question is, well, who's in the inner circle, and then who's at the top of the inner circle, right? But yeah, it's been a journey trying to answer that question.
Did you get there?
I think I got somewhere. I think everybody will be disappointed in watching this episode, because I won't point to their favorite, people who like want me to say it's the Masons, it's the Jesuits. Because one thing I have realized in this process is all of those groups are completely convinced they have the answer. And there's a lot of really, wow, there's amazing researchers out there and just regular people who sending me different things. And I mean, I went deep, like I'm not afraid to read some random conspiracy blog. I've probably read too many things, wasted too much time, but I'm like looking and scanning for like, okay, is there anything here? Okay, this is bullshit. This is just somebody's fake meme with a fake quote on it that doesn't actually lead to where they claim it does. But then other times I'm like, okay, there's actually some deep shit here, you know. And I would say the longest sections of the entire thing, because we're going to split it up right at the Committee of 300. So then the part 2 will pick up with the Zionists, the Masons, Jesuits, etc. That's like the bulk of it. Like I wanted to do those topics justice and really went deep into what people claim. And it's interesting to me that the Zionists, and the Freemasons and the Jesuits have all been expelled from numerous different countries throughout history, like over the last 500 years or so, and largely for the same reasons. People are like, they're getting too powerful, they're too influential, or the Masons are getting too powerful, or the Jesuits in the Catholic Church, you know, and so people start banning them, kicking them out, trying to get rid of secret societies. Obviously, the original Bavarian Illuminati was banned as well. And so there have been conspiracies like there's really not much to do, honestly. Like so much of this stuff was written 250 years ago, but then in our modern time, people are repeating things that they might not even understand, you know, what the origin is of it. And some of those origins aren't the best. Like some of them are just like, for one example, like the protocols of the elders of Zion, right? That's like the alleged secret plan of for world domination. And it's an interesting read. And a lot of it seems to be happening in our world, right? But there are definitely, I think, fair bits of evidence that show that it is a forgery. Doesn't mean there isn't an agenda, but that particular document, I don't think that's like you should hang your hat on it. And then at the same time, you've got another document that it's just funny. There's multiple secret documents that have been exposed in the 1800s where people, one of them is this guy who claimed that he was a young Jesuit novitiate. He was early on. He says he went into the father's house trying to ask him a question. And he discovered a library and he starts looking through the library and there's 3 layers of books. And in the back, he finds this book with all the confessions that the Jesuits have been collecting from different people around the world. And then he hears some people coming. So he hides in the other room and it's a meeting of 8 to 10 of the most powerful Jesuits meeting there, and he decides to take notes on everything they're saying, and then he takes it back, and then eventually they publish this book. This guy's name's Jacobo Leon, I believe, if I'm remembering his name correctly. And that book is out there. It's one of the books that a lot of people who blame things on the Jesuits would like say, hey, look, see, here's their secret plan. There's multiple secret plans alleged about the Jesuits. One, which is the secret oath, where they have to allegedly hold a dagger to their chest, and they say everything like, I'll smash a baby's head against the wall. Like literally that's part of the thing, and amongst other crazy things, and just saying we'll do whatever is called upon at the threat of being torn apart, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. So what was that Julia Roberts TV show or movie? What was it?
Julia Roberts?
Yeah, you remember it was on Netflix and it was like big. It's like The Last Day or all.
Oh, yeah. The Obama funded movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it called?
Again, I bring this up a lot, but there was a line in there.
Oh, I remember that.
The line that
Leave the world behind.
Yeah.
Leave the world behind. And it was that line that I forget the actor's name. It was the black actor. I forget what his name was. But he basically said that, you know, he was a friend with a billionaire and, you know, the billionaire would always give him advice on life. And one day he calls the billionaire and the billionaire is just shook. And the billionaire basically says along the lines of like, he realized who runs the world and it's nobody. And I go, wow, that seems to be some kind of revelation of the method. Like, why is that line in there? Why is that? What are they trying?
I definitely interviewed some people who feel that way as well. I will say that there's definitely like all the names I named, but then, for example, I don't want to give away the answers, but like G. Edward Griffin, he says it's more of an ideology. James Corbett and Larkin Rose have their own thoughts on like the belief in authority and the role that we play. I think it was Richard Grove who said that there's no capstone, that he doesn't think there's a, you know, single top of it, that it's more like these interlocking groups who are, you know, 9 times out of 10, they're going to agree on something over the people, but they still maybe have conflicts and factions and, you know, kind of their own ways. But ultimately it's just like maybe one final ring as opposed to one single group. I mean, I guess that's a group, but as opposed to it just being one person. And then of course, Ike has his theories on other dimensional, he talks about the reptiles and the answer. And Mark Passio, he's an ex-Satanist who, has a lot of
very passionate guy, Mark.
Yeah, Mark's a crazy dude. He's a cool dude. I love Mark for his rawness. But yeah, he talks about what he calls the dark occultists and his own theories on that. So there's definitely different people providing the answer, which I think does balance the thing out, right? Like again, I'm not approaching it from just being some like old school conspiracy documentary. Of course, some people would just dismiss this all as conspiracy, but everything in there is something that I can at least point to a document, point to a reference and say, hey, here's where this comes from. You decide if you think it's true, right? And if you do, then great. You believe it's the Jesuits, whatever. I think it's probably more like if I had to point to those top, and then there's also the Venetian black nobility. I think that, or just the black nobility, I think that's a big part of it as well, which is just like these old houses, the old royalty that have kind of drifted into the shadows that most of us don't think about, but they still hold a lot of the land across Europe and a lot of the wealth. And so there's writers who talk about the black nobility of Venice and Italy. Yeah. And then of course this intersects with the organized crime and how that they went into England with the inner city of London, financial district, etc. And so you've got like the houses in the Netherlands and Greece, the UK, of course, and a few other nations that people kind of point to as like those families. And then some names that are, these aren't necessarily the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. Of course, a lot of people do still think the houses of Rothschild in France and elsewhere are up there, but a lot of them are these like Italian families that none of us would necessarily know deeply or recognize if we heard them. And I do think there's probably some truth to that. And then of course, obviously the secret society element is a whole nother component. I mean, if I wanted to make this like a 10-hour documentary, which was not my goal, I could have kept going and I probably even went a little too deep. That's why we're splitting it off. But I'm hoping that people who are super into this idea, they can watch the original series. And, again, it's mostly, I'd say, 70% of them are 30 minutes or less. There's a few that are 45 minutes. So by the time you get to this last episode, you're pretty excited about, okay, where's this going? So the other cool thing I just want to mention is the entire series was completely crowdfunded over the last 5 years. I've raised about, I'd say like $50,000, and it's all gone to my editor. I haven't got paid for any of it yet. I do all the research, I write all the scripts, and I record the audio narration. And then I send it over to just a couple of amazing editors I've been able to work with, and they make it really shine and pop and just done some just incredible visuals. So we're actually still doing crowdfunding right now. If anybody wants to support, we're just, like I said, finishing this final episode. And now my part is thankfully about to be done as soon as I finish with the audio. And then hopefully we'll have it out by July. But it's been really cool. People have been telling me that they have used it to homeschool their kids. Like they make them watch an episode and then do a report on it. That's cool. I've had somebody tell me they were like a substitute teacher at some school and they played it for their students. They played one of the episodes. That's cool. And then somebody told me like, oh, I'm sharing it with my 18-year-old son. He loves it. I'm sharing it with my 15-year-old. Like this was to me like the kind of thing that if I was just waking up, this is the quality of documentary I would want to watch. That's basically what it is for me. And so I very much made it in mind of like, this is a tool. Like, yes, it's entertainment in a way, and I get that. But I put a lot of effort and love into this, and I want people to use it as that tool. Like if you can convince a family member to just watch a 30-minute episode, right? Then maybe they watch the first one. And the whole idea was like, it's for the binge, it's bingeable. It's for the Netflix generation. The idea is like, okay, if I can suck them in with one, then maybe they just keep going, right? And by the end of it, their whole mind's blown. At least they're asking questions, right?
I love it, dude. Where can we crowdfund it?
So right there at theconsciousresistance.com, there's a banner on top that if you click that, it'll take you straight to the fundraiser page. And I'm actually doing that one is, so yeah, actually people have donated while we've been doing this. Cool. So we have that if people want to do like fiat, but also if you check that info, there's another fundraising campaign if people want to do like Monero for a little more private. It's through a website called Kuno. It's right there in the description. But yeah, people can just check that out. I mean, of course, any support is always welcome. It's been just a huge honor, like to look at the comments and the things people share. It's very humbling for me because, as I said, this has mostly been a labor of love. But now that we're about to be done, my goal is to take all of the scripts and we're going to do some editing to make them more formatted for a book, and then create the Pyramid of Power companion book, which is going to have the full final episode without any of the cuts that I made. So it'll have like extra nerdy details for people who want to go down those rabbit holes. And then we're going to turn the whole series into some DVDs for people who want to do that, and then USB drives, because because I also have like 3 hours of bonus material from all the interviews I did. Obviously, like, we're just using like 1 to 2 minute clips of each guest's answer, but I've got, an hour plus with David Icke, an hour plus with G. Edward Griffin, et cetera, that I just haven't released at all. So those are going to be included when we get to that point after this summer of releasing, like, here's the full on collection. And I think this is probably going to be a project I promote for the rest of my life for sure, because it's meant to be evergreen. Like, there's nothing in this that'll really age it in 5 years. I just wrote it in a way that's not hyper, focused on things happening right now, but more just the bigger picture.
Yeah. And I think it's important because people can get lost in, I feel like low hanging fruit. Yeah. I think there is a lot of content creators out there that get pushed out because they push this narrative, which is, because, there is an aspect of spirituality to this. There is an aspect of, like for me, like a big argument for God is the devil, is Satan, is the darkness. And, the duality of life. If there's a bunch of people buying into this dark realm, there has to be the opposite of that, which is, love and all that stuff. And these people really push it, and we're just seeing it right now where it's so out in front of everybody so much.
Oh yeah.
And
it makes me skeptical of like how much the question, as people like to call it, is going in that direction. Like, and obviously like there's Zionist influence, absolutely. And in fact, in each of those sections I go through, I'm like, okay, here's all the people and institutions we mentioned. How many of them are Jesuits? How many of them are Masons? Just to kind of like, let's just do a rough count, right? And yeah, there's definitely a high proportion of people of ancestry who are representing these different positions. But I definitely think it just plays too well into the anti-Semitism stuff, right? It's like, okay, have everybody blame everything on the and then justify the push to, well, this is why we got to have censorship, or this is why we got to start rounding up college students or whatever, because anti-Semitism is growing so quickly. And yeah, it something feels off to me.
But you also get into like, what do they say versus what they do? Like, it's easy to say Jeffrey Epstein, right? It's very easy to say that because that's the presentation. But like, when you go deeper, there's all this occult symbolism with him. And what the blue and the white and the stripes and the owls and all that stuff that lets me think it's way deeper than that. It's way deeper. Like, they have to wear those masks to walk amongst us. They have to say, because for the longest time that was a protected class. But are they really that? Are they really pushing this stuff? Or is like even Kabbalism, the mysticism, is that darker? Is that darker stuff? The Talmud, is that like when you see Talmud, the oral history of the rabbis? Once you see the Babylonian oral history of the rabbis, that Babylonian right there, that takes me to a whole nother place, which is much deeper. Old gods that these guys are worshiping. Mecca, when Jay Dyer, who we just interviewed, which we're going to put out after this episode, when we interviewed him, he opened my eyes to the first king of the House of Saud was a British spy. Like, they go around a black cube. Where's that in Abrahamic faith?
Yeah, there's definitely something else going on. I mean, I did interview Adam Green of No More News, and he's hyper focused on the Zionists, the goal. But even he was like, to blame it all on all is just too simplistic. But he definitely is like, to him, it is this Judeo-Abrahamic religion and all the kind of connections and the psyops around that he thinks are sort of, he would place that at the top. And I do think there's some element of that, because a lot of these people who parade around as Christians or Muslims or whatever else in front of the public clearly are into some other sort of stuff, and they might believe that they have a lineage that they trace back to Babylonian times or to, the ancient Greek mystery cults or things of that sort. And obviously we're aware of that. What I've found in my own research, and I know that there's many more people who are probably more versed than I am, but I feel like I got a pretty good handle on it, even more than I did just a couple of months ago. I don't think anybody can 100% for certain, and I'd be happy to be proven wrong, feel free to reach out to me, can say that those cults are like that we can draw a straight line from them in the past to what's happening now. Obviously, these people are influenced by them, but I don't think we can necessarily, like, you know, people talk about the idea of this being beyond the spiritual level, which I do agree with you, Sam, is a big part of it. But outside of the spiritual, kind of just an evil that's been around for a long time that's now manifesting these current ways, I don't think there is a straight lineage that you can draw that shows the Knights Templar directly to this group, to this group, to this group, to, like, you know, like you can trace the popes, for example. There's definitely Freemason lodges that are inspired by the Rosicrucians or inspired by, you know, different groups of the past or the Illuminati or people who claim that. But in my view and in my perspective and the research I've done, it seems like we have to speculate a little bit on that part. Probably so, maybe inspired, but I don't think there's a direct lineage that we can actually trace from thousands or 10,000s of years, especially, that has existed. I mean, I could be wrong, and if it did exist, maybe we wouldn't be able to prove it. Like one of my guests in the series says something similar, and he kind of says, who's at the top? Well, why would they even have a name? Why would you need a name? Maybe there's no name and it's just people who know that they have that influence and power, and sure, they get together every now and then, they do weird shit, but they don't necessarily call themselves anything. They just have the awareness that we run shit.
Yeah, I'm not against it. Let's get into something real quick. You know, a big thing, again, early on, we talked about getting out of the system, but you have solutions, namely exit and build strategy. We kind of talked about last time you're on, but tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. So, I mean, this is coming from my book, How to Opt Out the Technocratic State. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I did write it in 2020, but then in 2022, 23, after a couple of years ago, I updated it. I put a second edition out, which has 5 new post chapters all about travel restrictions and vaccine passports and how to navigate all that. And in the book, I talk about this idea that we have 3 basic strategies of what things come down to. I mean, this is, of course, simplifying it, but one would be apathy is death. Like, you see the world's up, you see it's heading a bad place, and you just simply choose to do nothing. You know, you just watch podcasts for the rest of your life, and then, you know, next thing, oh, here it is. I knew it was coming. I didn't do anything. I think that leads to a physical and a spiritual death, to see what's coming and to choose to do nothing. Then another option I wrote was what I just called hold down the fort, right? So if you are a person that's like, I'm committed to where I live right now, it's hometown, it's where I'm born and raised, whatever, I'm going to die here, this kind of thing, then hold down the fort, you know, start building freedom in your current location and get connected with other people, build local community, find solutions, you know, have a bunch of different ideas on that. The other one is exit and build.
Real quick. The reason I think that's super important, sorry, I just don't want you to move on to that point, but the reason I think that's super important is this thing that I've kind of said, you know, you have the globalist, then you have the nationalist. I'm more of a localist, like what on a local level we could do. I believe that's how you make change. By being the example to other people, like whether it's your show, my show, Whitney Webb's show, even, you know, Joe Rogan's show has probably done more work than a lot of people have. And just because of the mass reach that the guy has. And like, again, we talked about in the last show that's coming out, but it's like I had people who were like totally against conspiracies coming up to me and telling me you were right about everything. And I love hearing that because I love them. You know, so whatever we're doing is working, and we are doing it through example. You know, you building your community, that it can be done. I think you know, you brought up earlier, apathy is death. The notion that it can't happen to you, it just will never happen to you is the real black pill, right? Like that is the black pill, not on a conspiracy level, which I do find it funny that conspiracy is still a taboo word, because all you're saying is 2 people conspired. I mean, that's the most basic of it all.
Well, we know that's a CIA work to make conspiracy theory, you know, this
right, and then black pill
thing.
is the conspiracy term for conspiracy.
It was
theories,
how they
right?
got.
It sure feels like it.
Right?
Yeah. And Sam, you're talking about the importance of local there. I'll just stop there before I go on, because I do think the only way in my limited 40 years on this planet that it seems like humans actually learn is through example. Like, you know, we can talk all kinds of theory and ideas and abstract, and maybe some people's minds work that way and they can grasp concepts. But for the most part, people have to see something to really believe it. Like, oh my God, I didn't think that was possible, but this person's doing it. Maybe now I can do do that, right? And I think that's the way I've strived to move with my activism and with my work in general. And I really want to stress, like what you were saying there, the importance about being connected locally, because I've seen this for years. I mean, I've worked with a lot of different people, big names, big followings, and connected in person and become friends. And what I've realized is that many of them have no connection to their local community. Like that they might have millions of followers online, but if they were to walk around their hometown, for example, nobody has any idea who they are because they've never been involved in their community in any way. They never, I'm not even saying being politically or anything like that, but I guess the reason that is a big part of my background is because the first 5 or 6 years of my work were, before it kind of moved more towards journalism, was very much from the activist background. So I was doing urban farming, building community farms and urban gardens in the 5th Ward of Houston, in the poorest neighborhoods where there's food deserts and no, groceries around, no organic food, et cetera, and building community gardens and doing just different forms of activism and skill shares where we had an activist house that I lived in for about 6 years, and it was me and a couple other guys, and we'd have concerts there. We'd had art shows. We've had skill shares, teaching people how to bake their own bread, how to make their own soup, make their own soap, how to, grow some food, and then doing garden stuff, just all kinds of different things. And it was, and then protests, all the usual stuff, but it was always geared to like, how can we activate people? How can we motivate people to do something? Okay, the problems are big, but what are we actually going to do here to try to be as least dependent on these systems as possible? So that was kind of already in my blood prior to really getting really deep into this work. And so that's why I say, like, hold down the fort. Like if you're the kind of person you're like, no, I don't want to leave, then maybe you should start thinking about what you can do to preserve freedom and privacy and the things you care about in the area that you're so committed to, instead of just watching it get worse. And then the other thing is, this is where exit and build comes in, because it's exit and build is both physical location, but it's also more practical. And I'll talk about that in a second. But let's say you were in a place during COVID where it was total mask Nazis and shut down and can't go anywhere in a grocery store without PCR, just all the nonsense, right? Maybe after that, you're thinking, I don't want to live here anymore. But 2 towns over, they were way more chill. It's a little conservative an area or whatever, or maybe the state over was more free. Like a lot of people went from California to Texas, of course. People went to Idaho, went to Florida, stuff like that. That's exit and build. I mean, that's just people saying, I'm going to exit from this place because I don't think it's conducive to privacy and liberty in the long term. It seems like there might be somewhere else, some more greener pastures. So you exit somewhere else and then build your new life there. And again, then it's still important once you get to that new place to hold down the fort and get involved in different ways. But also exit and build is about trying to exit from different systems that I think in the long term, and I believe this is being proven more true every day, are going to lead to this technocratic surveillance state we're talking about, right? So if you keep your money strictly in the banking system, it's going to, whether it's a CBDC or the stablecoin route that they seem to be doing in the US, eventually you're going to get to a point where they do try to digitize your money even further than it is. And along with that, along with programmable money, we know that they can easier debank people. They already did it during COVID with PayPal and Patreon, but also the Canadian trucker stuff and shutting people's accounts down. It'll be much easier once we have the real ID, digital ID, and everything's all plugged in. So then in my view, the idea would be start making plans now of how not to be dependent on those systems. And of course, that's not easy because we were all born into this world that they have already constructed, which says like, you got to have a driver's license, you got to have this thing, you got to do this. And to operate within that system, there's already certain parameters you have to move in, right? You got to have a credit score if you're going to rent, if you buy a house or do things like that. And if you don't have that, you're basically nobody. So my focus is really on how to look at the technological side of things. Like I know you guys talked to my buddy Hakeem Anwar a while back. Like Hakeem's my tech guy, when it comes to phones and operating systems and yeah, exactly, above phone and different tech sides, right? So we start thinking like, all right, I can exit from big tech and switch my laptop over to Linux. I can exit from the big cell phone providers and use above phone. Like start thinking in those terms. And I try to think holistically about it. I look at like the financial side, the technology side, healthcare. Of course, things like land, I think, are important. Not saying you have to be a farmer, but having maybe something to protect and defend and build on, and just looking at these different areas of your life and seeing where you're currently dependent or where you have weaknesses. So if you've got $30,000 of student loan debt or credit card debt, et cetera, those things can hurt you in the long term, especially as we move further to these digital systems. You might want to start coming up with a plan to to approach that and to become free in that way. And then maybe you switch from the big bank to the local credit union. And then maybe you start trying out Monero or something, when it comes to crypto. Like, there's different solutions and that we have. There are so many things we can actually do. But of course, it takes time, it takes money, it takes energy. And in my book, I call this the freedom formula, which is basically you take your desired level of freedom, which is going to be different by person and by family, but really think about if I don't want their 2030, what does my 2030 look like? For me, that's getting land, building a community with other like-minded people, growing food. And this has been a dream of mine. Well, we just paid off our land in January here in Mexico. We're starting to build our shelter. I'm making progress on that goal. I'm living as an example of that, right? So put your thoughts into what you actually want in 2030. What does that look like? It doesn't have to be my dream, whatever yours is. And then start practically thinking, well, what is it going to take to get there? What are the steps I need to do to be debt-free? What are the steps I need to take to go switch from Bank of America or Chase Bank, who helped Jeffrey Epstein launder his money, to a local credit union? Like, think about it as practically as possible. And in fact, I put together a free challenge that people can check out at theconsciousresistance.com/EXB, just the letters EXB. It's called the 45-Day Exit and Build Challenge. I did it right around the election, kind of leading up to the election. And my goal then was to say, hey, if you want to vote, that's fine, but try this practice and see if you actually gain value. And so it's basically like a once a week video. We start with food and we go to technology, et cetera. And I encourage people to take it, because even if you do take it seriously, I think you'll learn something about yourself, first of all, but I think you'll also get a clear vision of what you actually want. Now, whether you follow through with it or not is all up to you, but I made it as simple as possible, where you just watch this short video. I explain how exit and build relates to food, relates to money, et cetera. And then we give you different homework and resources to kind of do over the following 7 days. And then you come back. So it's like a 7-week thing. If people want to check that out, theconsciousresistance.com/EXB. And I've got a bunch of presentations on my website about it too, if people want to learn more. But yeah, I mean, nothing in there that I discuss is anything that I'm not doing myself. Like, these are all things that I'm practicing and navigating and learning, because again, we're in an imperfect system. So it's not easy. It's not easy to be a person who chooses to not use banks. It's not easy to be a person to not talk to certain agencies, and how to navigate that, how to have a business, how to survive and thrive in this world that you don't really want to thrive and survive in. So instead, I'm trying to put my energy into working with people like Hakeem and others who are focused on building these new systems.
What's your thoughts on precious metals?
I support precious metals for sure. I mean, I've got gold backs here. I've got some silver. I mean, I'm honest. I'm not like a maxi on anything, right? I'm a freedom maxi, right? So I started using Bitcoin in 2012. I think most of the Bitcoin space is kind of hijacked at this point and focused on just getting rich and not using it as a currency. I still support Monero because it's functional, it's private. I use gold backs, I'll use silver. I think seeds is a great currency as well. Having those stored up, having skills, that's the other thing too, is like if you don't have a lot of money and time to invest in other things, you can kind of invest in yourself, right? And try to level yourself up. So I think all of those are great strategies. I definitely wouldn't say shy away from one, probably do all of the above.
I'd like to interview you, quick 15-minute interview on my financial podcast one time, pre-recorded. We'll drop it into the episode of just like, cool. How to get your own system going, precious metals and all that stuff. So I'll try to set that up with you. Yeah, man, it was a great episode. You're well-spoken. You're a good dude, and I appreciate you. You're doing great work. What is the name of your media organization and the guys you're working with again?
The Independent Media Alliance, and that is myself, Ryan, Christian at The Last American Vagabond, Whitney Webb, of course. I don't want to try to list everybody's names because I'll forget, but we are actually working with the Odyssey video platform. They're basically building us out like this kind of portal that is going to be the home on their website for all the Independent Media Alliance stuff. Yeah, there's the challenge there. So yeah, we're going to be continuing to work and just try to put these ideas out there. If people are interested in that, just stay tuned. We don't have the website up yet, but that'll be out soon. And then thepyramidofpower.net if you want to go watch the whole series before the 17th episode comes out. And then, check out my website, the books, the challenge, and everything else, man. I appreciate you guys having me on, brother.
We'll have we'll have the link at the top of the description so everyone can click it, and we'll push everything you got going on. Derrick, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for coming on our Weirdo show. We always appreciate people like you doing not just talking about, but actually like talking the talk and walking the walk. I think it's very important. People like us, I'm thinking about getting out of LA all the time. I got to figure out where I want to bring my kids and all that stuff. So very interesting things. It was great to talk to you, and we appreciate you coming on. Let's break down the episode. All right, what'd you guys think? What'd you think, Xavier?
Wait, we're already going? Oh,
Yeah.
my bad. It was start that over.
This is off week.
I was trying.
Is it your off week, or are you too much
I
on
literally
week?
was still on this out. I was trying to figure this out.
Yeah, Derrick Broze is great. He's one of the real G's out there.
Yeah.
He's a hard worker. He's a hustler. I kind of brought up something I didn't mean. I think he thought I was talking about him, but because he had that lively debate with Ian Carroll.
Derrick Broze did?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Because he doesn't talk. Because Ian Carroll doesn't talk about Peter Thiel at all, and I don't even see Ian Carroll on Rumble.
Did he ask him about it?
Well, there was like, why aren't you talking about this guy?
And what does he say?
And he goes, and Ian Carroll's whole thing is like, I'm new to all of this. I'm learning as I go.
I mean, we've had him he came in the studio, right?
Yeah.
No.
He
was
said
going
he
to,
would
right?
because he's in LA, but then we just like.
I get no bullshit vibes off of that.
Yeah,
dude.
and they did a show. They made up.
So was it like it kind of got heated?
Well, I mean, like there was a time where everyone was calling Ian Carroll everywhere in the book. And, my whole thing is like, I come from a comedy world. I've always been a conspiracy theorist, but in terms of content creating, 8 years in internet years is forever, but in life, it's not that long. And, I've just seen, it's all energy, dude.
Oh, dude, you've been podcasting since 2012. Punch Drunk was 2012.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were doing it before that a little, weren't you? With
Well, I was jumping on other people's, but okay. Punch Drunk was the first one.
12 years.
Yeah. So
13 almost.
So
13 years.
I've seen different people blow up, and I've seen people go, why did they just blow up? And I go, it's all energy. It's like you and I talk about it all the time. I call it the Elvis energy. You call it the Hitler energy.
Factor.
Yeah, the Hitler factor. Some people have, some people don't. I just to be honest with you, I don't think that's my thing. Like I have just weird energy. And, so it is what it is. I can't get upset with it. I just got to accept it for what it is. And, but Derrick Broze is a really great, I just want, if he does listen to the part, I just want him to know that I didn't bring that up, but I just wanted to bring up about how like the conspiracy space loves to eat each other up because they don't necessarily 100% believe 100% of what you believe. So I just think it's counterproductive. If we believe at the basis that the government's behind 9/11, then that we should all get along. We could have different views on how it was done and who was involved, but the basis is all the same.
Completely agree.
So that's my opinion. I'm very jealous of Derrick Broze in terms of the life he's living, the stuff he's doing. It's a lot of work.
You heard him say he said he has seeds. He just got them paying for his land.
Well, he said seeds is a cryptocurrency, but he is growing his own food.
And he means like seeds, like mangoes and like to grow plants, right?
Johnny, correct me if I'm wrong, but he said seeds when he was talking about great cryptos.
I don't
When he started listing all the cryptos, one of them, he goes in this new one, seeds. I could be wrong.
I don't know if that was a joke. Was he joking though?
No, I think
I think it was
will
serious.
you look up if there's seeds crypto? Maybe I'm retarded.
Man, either one of us are retarded because I think it's like seeds that you plant in the ground.
There's something called Seeds is the first eco-friendly cryptocurrency that
that's what
aligns
it
money with values.
Yeah, so that's what he's talking about. I believe. Great episode, man. I know he did want to give away who he thought was the top of the power of the pyramid. But he also said people love the series. They may not be happy because it might not be one guy. And I understand that. I don't know if there's one guy who runs everything.
Yeah, well, I like, when he said that, I thought of it as kind of like the five families coming together, and organized crime in New York. You'd had like the five families of or the mafia. And I could see it being like that, where they kind of have their own turf that they scrap over, and those are where the battle lines
and they
are drawn.
work together when it's convenient, and
Right.
then they go to war over turf.
And then sometimes there's this third party, the government, that is like, you know, threatening them, which I guess that would be us, really, in that case, like trying to hold them accountable. And then above them all is probably the spiritual stuff, God and you know, evil.
Satan, yeah.
Yeah,
it was a great episode, man. He's a professional.
If you were no kids, how off the grid would you be? No kids, no baby mama. Would you?
I wouldn't
would you
be
be
in
out
LA
there
right now if I didn't have kids.
You wouldn't be in LA. You would guarantee that.
Where I would be, I don't know. I can't move to Mexico. I don't speak Spanish.
What would you do if you had to flee? What would be would you go back to your family, you think, first? Like, if you had to flee, like, short notice, get out of here, where would you go?
Okay, so if I don't go to Austin, and the only reason I go to Austin is because the comedy that I do flourishes there, I would move either to Phoenix, Arizona, or Buffalo, New York.
Not worried about Phoenix with being so close to the border, no water.
Well, I just have so much family there. I would move into the neighborhood.
Nice city, though. Beautiful. I love the desert.
I love the people there, but I would move
great.
where my family is.
Like, I like Palm Springs, dude. I love going out there.
I think that if I don't have, like Derrick was talking about, the minute he turned 18, he moved. That was me. And I don't have a lot of regrets. One of them is that I left my mother so quickly. My dad wanted me out, but my mom didn't want me to leave.
It's tough.
What do you? Okay, well, but now, in times of now, if you had a kid, would you want him to leave as soon as he turns 18, or gather up some money?
Well, the thing about me was that I lived in a small town in upstate New York. There wasn't a lot of opportunity there. Now, like, a big reason I want to move to Austin, or like if money was no issue, money's no issue, it's San Diego, right? Because it's like, I think they're living the best life.
I know, something about San Diego to me is just a little soulless or something. I don't know.
I love San Diego.
I've spent a lot of time there now.
Like, guys, I'm older than you. I'm over the action.
It's
like,
not the
I
action,
did it.
though. It's just
like,
a little
last
too
night I was at
slick or
Tom's
something.
thing. They're like, "You gonna go to the after party?" I'm like, "No, I'm old and sober. I'm going home." But I mean, he's like, "I'm old and sober," but I'm like, "You're cool and still in the game." Like, I am done. Like, dude, I tweaked. I did it. I did everything. I did it for days in a row. I've my cup runneth over. Okay, I'm good. I just want to chill. You know, that's really it. So I just want to go somewhere where the weather isn't bad. And I don't mind super heat. Heat doesn't bother me. Like,
I was about to say, what qualifies as bad weather when it's 1120 degrees?
Yeah,
and
but
your
I
ass
lived in
sticks
Vegas
to the
forever,
seat.
and I loved it.
Yeah, but I hate when people complain about the heat. He's gonna be in a car, in a studio, in his house, in a gym.
I want to move to Austin. They say that's unrelenting heat.
Well, that's yeah. You get the humidity there.
So yeah, Arizona doesn't have humidity. But you know, if it wasn't about comedy and I said wrap it up, call it a day, I would head to one of those places. But it's looking like Austin. All my boys are running it, and I don't know if I necessarily
no state income tax. Like, oh,
all right.
But I also don't know. Like, I'm not going to go in there and be right in the mix. I don't know. I want that anymore. I just want to like go on my friend's podcast, talk some shit.
I want to be able to just walk out. You know, it boils down to this. I would like to be able to walk outside and piss, and nobody sees me.
No.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I respect that. I want my daughters to be able to go outside. They just sit indoors all day because all the weirdos. Most of my neighbors I get along with, you know, even the ones that were driving me crazy for a while, we're cool now. But my kids don't go outside. Go outside. Do something. Live some life. Talk to some people.
Dude, do you remember? I mean, growing up, I'm probably the last generation. Maybe you too, actually. I don't know. Where that was like, you know, you got kicked out at the beginning of the day, and then you didn't come back until it started to get dark. And
It's gonna be weird how we handle my autistic daughter because she can't say where to go home. That's the only problem I have. You know, and she's gonna want to go outside soon. She's just a juggernaut, dude.
Just keep a little air tag on her, you know.
I don't know how to do it, but they need to be able to go outside. They need to go do stuff.
Have a yard.
But
That's it.
autistic kids are also like creatures of habit. Like, I have a cousin who's autistic and he just wants to sit in his room all day. Okay, you want to do that? That's fine. But Someone needs to get out of the house
Move the body.
because I'm parenting all the time.
Got to move your body. Yeah.
Get out of the
As a
house.
kid, you know.
Guys, if you want to see me live, go to samtripoli.com, grab the tickets. This Saturday night, I'm blessed to be at one of the best comedy clubs in the world. It is the Stand Up Comedy Club at Bellflower. Then I will be in La Cave in Costa Mesa, then Cleveland, then Pittsburgh, then San Diego. And we just keep going. New dates with Broadbrook. Boston's coming. Tulsa, Oklahoma. More dates to come. I'm blessed. Go to samtripoli.com. All the premium content is fire. I mean, just fire. More, what's it called? Up to date. More in the news stuff. So you get that stuff. Maybe we don't talk about current topics as much as you'd like to right now. The show's pretty evergreen. All my premium content's that. Three episodes a week, hour at a time, as long, you know, and then it's just a great discussion. And I'm talking to the best people. Whatever this is one of the best conversations on the internet. I'm very blessed to do with with Austin Picard and Brad Binkley. Those are two of the best researchers in the biz. So go check that out. Great way to support the show. I'll never get canceled. I have a Prometheus website. It is decentralized. Cash Daddies. Johnny, how bad is Howie crushing it? Is he crushing it or super crushing it?
Oh, he's super crushing it. They just had a big day a couple of days ago with the movement in the markets. And yeah, it's not just that's not the only thing you get. Also, we do a question and answer every week. All the guys on the show, you get that. We answer every question, so you put it in there. Howie's great with the financial stuff. Sam can talk to you about life lessons and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just a great show.
Yeah,
it's a combination.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Howie's a little bit farther on the other side of the spectrum. It's a fun conversation. And again, you're investing, so nothing's guaranteed. But, last year Howie did better than the S&P, is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah, by far. Yeah.
By far.
Yeah.
So if that means something to you, check that out. And then if Dana's like, what is that? I go, it's $1,000 1 month. And Johnny and I will watch you go to Pound Town and just tell you what you can do, whether it's rhythm, your dirty talk, bleaching your beehole. What is it?
Yeah.
What I'm more upset is I know people have made more than $1,000 off of you guys on Cash Daddies, and no one's wanted to put it down.
Yeah, put it down.
Let me down.
Let me watch you.
It's called
crush
reinvesting, is what it is. You got to reinvest your game.
Reinvest in us.
Your girl will never leave you if you get tips from Sam.
Yeah. And I'm amazed at how many people say, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, okay, you're talking shit. And then I run off. Chaos Twins, new episode, new issues about to come out. I'm going to go on the road, preach it, sell it to everybody, show it to everybody. It is a family-friendly, it's the only family-friendly thing I do. It's a family-friendly comic book for the kids, teaches them about conspiracies. Lots of go down. Guys, our affiliates, I'm going to start adding some more to it. I got to add the honey guy. I'm emailing him. I'm very busy. I haven't been able to email him to get our honey because Johnny wants to taste his honey.
I did say that you would not email him, and it has come to pass that you have not emailed
It has come to pass.
Who's psychic here and who's
Wise
not?
Wolf, Gold and Silver, Rife Technology. We love them. AquaCure, Hydrogen Brown Gas. The Mineral King, dude, grab your mineral supplements to get out of the toxins are there. Fix your soils there. Energy, chemical-free body. I took it during the show.
You did?
I take them every day. Yes, I take it in between shows to keep the energy going. Harley Ray, some of the most beautiful human beings you'll ever see in your life, running one of the best websites, selling you crystals, sage, candles, whatever you need, it's there. EMF Rocks, get rid of those dirty bags. And then our good friend Joel Staley has a book out. We're going to have him on soon, and we'll talk about getting in shape. Then our good friends at Brain Supreme. If you love Xavier Guerrero cranking it to the top with intellectual conversations, Brain Supreme's where it's at. And then Prometheus is my website. Nuke Social, you get all my social media there. Tinfoil Hat, Telegram, Zero Telegram. I'm getting back onto that. And then all my live shows. I have to add doom scrolling. I have to add doom scrolling to it.
It's a great show. Every episode is the best episode.
Every episode is the best episode. And if you want to get educated quickly on a lot of things, there is no better show than Doom Scrolling. It's ADD theater for those who want to learn the truth, Johnny, okay? Radio shows, all my stuff. SamTripoli.com is where it is at. Everything Sam Tripoli, specials, comedy, dates, clips, you name it. What do you want to push?
We got these brand new tinfoil hats. Go to tinfoilhats.com, and we got beanies, new hats, and we're gonna have a monthly drop hat. So go get those over there.
Johnny.
Check out the new Broken Sim. It's out there at Broken Sim on Twitter too. Check us out.
All right, guys, enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
I want to get into. I want to kind of follow up. We got the Shannon Sharp story that's coming out.
Yes, yeah.
And again, here we are, closeted gay black men.
Do you really think he's closeted gay?
I think he's bisexual. At the least. I just personally don't think that straight guys dress like that tight of clothes.
All the black guys do now.
I just don't. I just think there's a little bit of sugar in the tank. You know what I'm saying? That's just all I'm saying. And he's super shiny.
Is this the girl?
Yes.
Oh, damn.
And she was like, okay, you're paying for each cheek, right?
Oh, damn, dude.
So there's a bunch of stuff going on with this. Shannon Sharp, he was on Fox. He was on ESPN. Then he went to Fox Sports.
Yeah, if you don't know, he was an NFL star too.
He was with the Denver Broncos. This isn't sports talk, guys. Calm down.
No. But he's a
so
huge.
Then goes over there with
Skip
Bayless. They're going at it. Nobody's watching the show, but everyone just yells him and it's like a horse mouth versus gay magician fight all the time, and everybody at Fox Sports is just banging, is sexually harassing everybody.
Here's if you just for context, here's Skip Bayless and him. Oh God, they're gonna show us an ad. They had like a falling out on air, which and now their whole shtick was to argue.
Right? Well, that's talk shows now.
But
it's so fake. Some of the arguments they're like pre-written.
Real, though. Let's see if I can get to the actual footage and not this dildo talking about it. Yeah, here we go. All right.
This is just straight hate by a guy who's jealous that he is still playing at a high level at 45 when you had to stop at 35.
That's what you do.
That's the point.
That's what you do. Every time I call something into question, I'm jealous.
No.
Skip, I did what I did.
I never said you were jealous of Baker Mayfield.
Skip, I did what I did. You make it seem like I was a bum. I'm in the effing Hall of Fame.
Okay,
I got 3 Super Bowls.
So what?
So what?
He's way better than you were.
Anyway, so he took that personally, and then they kind of
it's like it's Skip Bayless is like a lot of comics, like they all think they're tough guys because they
know black people. Yeah,
no, they think they're tough guys because like they did the Tonight. They mistake what they do on the stage for being a tough guy. Now I don't think I'm a tough guy. I don't. I mean. I got
how you grow up. It's like,
but it's like Skip Bayless would do one punch from this guy. Skip Bayless, the queen would just be knocked out of him. But again, so anyways, that whole thing goes on. What's her face? Joy Taylor, whose nephew just got drafted today, was Jason Taylor's kid. That's always a sign you're getting old. When the guys you watched when you were young, their kids are getting drafted.
It's disturbing. Yeah.
So anyways, so now. Everyone in the space, in particular, I think Shaquille O'Neal has been alluding allegedly that he's got sugar in his tank, right?
That Shannon Sharp does.
Yeah, Shannon Sharp's got sugar in his tank because it's all content click shit. That's the new world we live in, right? So then this thing comes out where he accidentally like live streams him having sex. You could hear it, but you couldn't see it.
Yes, yeah.
And you just hear a girl going, and he's like, marble mouth, sex talk, right? Yeah. So that happens. And then this comes out, and he's 50 something.
Why did it stop playing? What is that? I don't know what that. I guess that is a thing on Twitter, though, huh? People are putting to say.
Yeah. Anyways, it comes out that he's involved with this 20-year-old OnlyFans.
20 years old.
Okay.
Damn.
So then it comes out that they met in 2002, which everyone's going, oh, that's 3 years. So that puts her at 17.
2022.
Yeah, but if you look at the timeline in which he says he met her, it was at the end of 2022, and he broke up with her at the beginning of 2025. So it's technically 2 years, which puts her at 18. Not saying it's okay for 52-year-old, but every one of us would do the exact same thing. We knock the bottom
If
off.
there's consent there, who cares?
Okay, yeah.
Here's the
Anything
leaked
I
audio
say,
from
you're
the
just
accuser.
gonna like get mad at, and you're just gonna hang up on me. So I feel like
I'm not gonna hang up on you. Here's what it is.
what? What does that even mean?
Nothing yet. You want to be a dick to me now, so.
I don't want to be. Don't manipulate me.
See, this is all talk because she knows
If you
she's
say that
recording
one
it.
more time, I'm gonna choke out of you when I see you.
Now, okay, so he just said, I'm going to
Choke the shit out of you when I see you.
Now, he's released this, and they have a long history of BDSM
and this is
talk.
my
Yeah.
tweet I put.
Go ahead,
BDSM is going to be the downfall of rich men.
Yeah.
Only broke dudes can choke chicks in the bedroom.
Because you take an excerpt of any conversation in the middle, and you take out the part where, hey, we're starting to sext, and hey, that was good sexting, and you just pull the middle part out. It's like, oh, you're gonna beat the shit
This
out
is
of
the
this chick.
same
Yeah.
story of Trevor Bauer. This is the same story of that Dallas cowboy
Yes.
who the girl was like, put me in handcuffs, smack the shit out of me as hard as you can. And he recorded it. And she went right to the cops and said he SA'd her.
Yeah.
If you are rich, Johnny, let's put a number on rich. 70 grand a year? What is the number rich? What's a number?
Rich? No. Well, I mean,
What do you got,
worldwide,
man?
it's like 30,000. But in this country, it's probably. I mean, in LA, it's like 200 grand, 300 grand.
200 grand, 300 grand.
Is rich in LA. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess.
If you are 200 grand, 300 grand, you can't choke chicks. You can't do it. Those days
what if
are
they're
done.
rich? What if the chicks are rich, though?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Because rich chicks want to be more rich.
That's a good point.
Right?
That's a great observation.
And then Shannon Sharp played, probably not when the number are what they are today, but at the time.
No, but he's making bank. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Right.
He's making bank now.
Right. So now here's where we get into why he's a scumbag. Okay? Is because supposedly he put it in her ass without condom.
That's the part that is the part
Right.
that they're getting him on. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Without
Not
consent,
right.
yeah.
Johnny, would we here on Broken Sim make an official statement saying we don't think that's right?
Without consent.
Without consent.
Absolutely.
But the question becomes,
with consent, questionable still.
well, the question is, were they raw dogging all the other times? Like, is he hooking up with the OnlyFans model wearing a condom? Or is he raw dogging all the time? And this one time she's like, no, don't put it in my ass without a condom. Is that the only time? But the whole point of this is like, here we are again where a girl is like, beat the shit out of me and then turn around and going, hey man, give me this money. And he supposedly offered her $10 million.
Wow.
And she didn't take it.
She must be making a nice little check.
Well, she is now because that's a new business model, right?
Yeah.
The girl did it to Alex Pereira.
Yes.
Hooks up with him, accuses him of SA, and just gets all the subs.
Now, TMZ is reported yesterday that he had a BDSM. If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/Sam Tripoli.
And we're back with the number one energy drink in the world, Rat Bastard. What's up, my boy? You guys already know where to get these. At your local Amazon, your local Walmart, and ratbastard.com. They got wild watermelon. I don't know what that is. They got blood orange. They got a couple other flavors like fruit punch. So go to ratbastard.com. They've been supporting the podcast since day one. They bought tickets for us a day trip. They might hook us up at Splash House, but they sponsor this podcast because this is the number one podcast in the world. So we only drink the number one energy drink in the world, which is Rat Bastard. So thank you guys. And if you guys are talking about Rat Bastard, you guys want to watch a Rat Bastard right now? This guy right here. This guy right here, I literally
text your wife and ask her if she wants to mess around. When she replies and says she's too tired, text her back and say, oops, sorry, wrong person. When she says that she's going to leave you, tell her, see, I knew you were lying. You're too tired to mess around, but you got enough energy to pack a bag and leave. Follow for more like this.
Rat bastard.
The follow for more like this is hilarious, dude.
But I mean,
that's logic.
That guy's got logic. Got logic. If your girl don't want a bone, but she's got enough time to make luggage.
To make luggage?
No, pack luggage, make luggage, whatever. At this point, you just don't seem like you don't want to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Play the other one. This guy's great, dude.
Never let your wife talk to another woman unless you're there to supervise. Women are not capable of solving problems. All they're doing is feeding into each other's delusions. Their goal is to sabotage each other's relationship. They'll be like, what? You were in an argument and your husband yelled at you? You need to leave him. Or they'll be like, what? Your husband didn't yell at you? That means he doesn't want to fight for you. You need to leave him. I'm telling you, women are not capable of solving any problems. The only good points a woman has ever made is when it's cold outside and she's not wearing a bra. Follow for more like this.
Wait, I'll leave it right there. Crema de la Creme 714. I know you, homie. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I think you know him too. I think he already followed you. I think he follows you too, Chili.
I love him.
Shout out to Crema.
Tyler.
Yeah.
That's funny.
For more like this, follow. Oh, he's a real rap bastard.
Yeah.
He's a real rap bastard.
Logic, though.
How old do you think that old man is?
Old enough to be your dad.
I mean, he got the same logic as my dad, so
it's that old school logic, but it's not even crazy. It's honestly just makes sense.
It's on point.
That's funny.
He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Chili.
What's up?
As a female, you've been there, right? When you hear that he didn't yell at you, but then he did. Have you heard those two logics he just explained? Have you heard that?
Yeah, the girl one definitely makes sense. The girl one is for sure.
Or if he don't yell at you, if he doesn't yell at you, he doesn't care. And if he yells at you, he's a right? Have you heard both those statements, right?
Oh, those statements?
Yeah, like if you've heard a girl say, "Oh my God, he yells at you, he's an asshole." But if he doesn't yell at you, he doesn't care.
I've never heard a girl say that. I've heard guys say that. Like if I didn't care.
You didn't yell? Were you supposed to care more?
Yeah. You yell at everybody, so like
you didn't slash enough tires. The guy was mad because all his tires were fully intact.
Cares about everybody,
right?
I don't know, but yeah, I've heard that logic before. That's some old school logic.
Dude, that fool's a rap bastard.
Like your mom's. But it's funny. They're funny. He's a rap bastard. I mean, but is he? Because it's all true.
I'd give him a follow.
Dang, all these are rat bastards. I think we have a rat bastard theme today.
Rat bastard theme. Let me see.
Look, this is a rat bastard chick.
Oh.
No, ma'am. I am baffled by the accusations that are made against me. That's the thing with society. Society has changed so much. Back then, my parents used to leave me at home all the time while they go have fun. Did y'all lock them up? No. Everybody keeps saying I'm a bad parent because it's only one of me. The daddy ain't there, as you could tell. We black. They said I'm a bad parent because I gave my kids to CPS. I never gave my kids to CPS. CPS came and took them. My neighbors called my phone while I was with my new man. I had just broke up with my other man the day before, so I'm not talking about him. So if he sees this, I'm not talking about you. CPS ended up calling me while the police are there and they trying to trick me into coming home. My neighbors called me, telling me that. I don't even know who called me. I was drunk. You feel me? But one thing I'm not gonna do is go turn myself in to the police while CPS there. If y'all want the kids, take them. I don't want them. And when I tried to give them up, y'all wouldn't take them till I got to do child support. I'm gonna get an abandonment charge. Y'all don't do that to everybody else. Y'all just go in while they all happy with their family. Y'all go in and take the kids. Take mine for free, baby. I'm not doing that. And then y'all keep coming around trying to look for me to do news videos. Or if you could do a clip, y'all better not call the police. Because I know one thing. Like, what am I supposed to do? Take my kids out while I'm going to go party? Regardless of what it is, I'm going to go party. So y'all want me to take them with me or not? No, they going to kick me out. They ain't even going to let me in the club. My main focus is men. Men. Not no kids. Make it make sense. I'm only 30 years old. I'm tired trying to live my life. Y'all irritating me. I'll probably go get them kids back when they like 15 or whatever age it is for them to stay home by themselves. They only 6 and 7. They can't cook on the stove and then they can barely reach it. So what are y'all afraid for? I got them in there asleep on melatonin. Y'all irritating me. How did y'all even find me? Come on, let's do the interview. Y'all want me to cry? Y'all call the police.
Okay. This is Cap, right?
Yeah, I don't know. That's
This is Cap.
So funny, dude.
She's lying, right?
Yeah, she's lying.
She has to be lying. But do you really think there's a female that thinks like that?
Yeah, definitely. I've heard females say stuff like that. Well, not the CPS thing, but
What have you heard?
I've heard girls pick their dudes over freaking their kids, their chick. Like, they're just like, I don't care. They don't listen.
That's so sad.
Yeah, that's just sad as fuck. But I mean...
But what's funny is because it is obviously, I mean, it's obviously satire. At least I would hope so. But it is a sad...
She does a bunch of them, that comment. The comment right here, it says, like, she does a bunch of videos like this is fake. Well, obviously it's fake, but...
No. Yeah. But the thing is, like, I'm sure it comes from a little bit of truth.
Oh, there's females out there
You
like
get what I'm
that.
saying? Like,
That's what you mean?
she's heard females say this.
Yeah, of
So now
course.
she just puts it all together.
Yeah.
And she's like, let me sound like an idiot and
Yeah.
go viral. But that's what I'm trying to say. I'm like,
Can you imagine if all the comments were just like clapping, like, hell yeah, you know, all these ghetto chicks, the bad moms.
Bro,
If I offend anybody, I really don't care.
I'm going to be honest with you. Might be a little bit too TMI.
Uh-oh.
But this can get some good slop.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, bro. This bitch, yeah. She's...
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hack.